Part 38. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 372. What should I do if there are so many famous names all over the city? What should I do if I provoke 100,000 NPCs and are chased and chopped down by the whole city? My teammates blame me for killing an NPC. What should I do? Waiting online. Urgent. If this game had a world channel loudspeaker function like an ordinary online game, Li Erpang would not hesitate to play more than a dozen of them in a row, soliciting all kinds of weird ideas from fellow loser players in order to overcome the current difficulties. Unfortunately not. No one asked what to do next. No one asked me why I had accumulated a lot of killing points and was noticed by famous people in the city even though I had done nothing. It's too late to quit the team now. Ningyu let out a long sigh, his expression desolate, lonely, empty, and cold. Xiao Chuer looked at the levels of these red-named monsters from a distance, and casually held the whip tightly. I'm actually glad now that this is a turn-based game. Then Li Erpang took a deep breath, picked up his hammer and shield, took the lead, and killed the nearest small group of cavalry. I will crush you. A brilliant halo of light fell from the sky. The phantom of the balance flashed across the sky. The three-person team was instantly enveloped in a halo of light and fell into a turn-based system. The light of God is so dazzling and dazzling. It's impossible not to see. The NPCs in the Twin Lion Kingdom saw the scene at the same time and rushed toward Li Erpang, Ningyu, and Xiao Chuer. However, due to the limitations of the combat mechanism, only 5 knights can enter the aperture at a time and have a fair fight with the 3 wanted criminals in a 5 vs 3 situation. Li Erpang skillfully added a buff to the team's defense, then put the shield in front of his chubby body, crouched behind the shield, and said rude words. What the hell, at a time like this, when 100,000 people are attacking you, you don't need to practice chivalry. This is outrageous. Duan. While talking, the knight on the opposite side jumped over and slashed Li Erpang's shield with his sword, leaving a medium-sized number behind. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer analyzed the current situation while selecting skills, jumping repeatedly, and replying in time according to the turn-based game mechanism. If we think about it optimistically, it is possible that the Yilin brothers may have triggered some kind of mission, which led to the current situation. Ningyu just finished speaking. A few more lines of system prompts flashed before the 3 of them. Congratulations. Your team kills the Minister of Entertainment. The reputation of the Twin Lion Kingdom -300. Please keep up the good work. Ningyu suddenly felt like he couldn't continue editing. He really couldn't imagine what kind of mission could be so cruel, requiring players to slaughter NPCs in the city wantonly. Li Erpang complained, what kind of mission? Massacre the city. Xiao Chuer whipped it, and she suddenly thought of a possibility. No, if this is a mission, maybe it's really possible. Ningyu was reminded by Xiao Chuer. His heart stirred, his mind became active, and he suddenly thought of a terrible speculation. A man and a woman ignored Li Erpang's confused look and looked at each other. The two saw the same shock in each other's eyes, and their inner thoughts blurted out. It's a coup. Time is running out. On the roof, Yilin admires the moon alone. Under the moon, the whole city was filled with red monsters. It was really so spectacular. Yilin admired it for a while. It's a pity that this game does not have a screenshot function, otherwise Yilin would like to pose properly, take a photo, and beautify her face with one click, so as to keep a souvenir. This kind of scene is really rare. Yilin took out the communication crystal and looked at it for a while. Still haven't sent any contact to my teammates. I'm still in team mode right now. It stands to reason that they have also received my reminders to kill so many important NPCs. After all, we are the same team and we operate as a team. They must be able to guess the general reason. Instead of explaining it in pale words, it is better to take direct action to let them understand the current situation. Since they didn't use the communication crystal to scold them, it means that the situation on the teammate's side is not yet close to death. Well, everything's fine. Yilin put away the communication crystal with peace of mind. On the street, NPCs with red names all over the city crowded towards the middle city. From Yilin's perspective, there were almost no people visible. They were all red names, which were extremely bright under the moonlight. If this wave of red names are all converted into experience points, even if the experience points obtained after the level is increased are greatly reduced, these 100,000 red name NPCs may be enough for Yilin to break through the LV50 mark. It's a pity that this is not the result that Hermelos wanted. And Yilin suddenly remembered the little nun with her back turned to him and praying devoutly in the chapel. Shaking her head, Yilin quickly put aside the messy thoughts that flashed through her mind. He opened the mission panel and looked at the mission prompts. Accept the side mission, Homeros's deal. Mission goal, complete Homeros's peace list. Current progress, 19/20. Task difficulty, S. Task time limit, 6 hours. Task reward, designated giant beast navigation pointer *2. For 2 whole hours, Yilin ran all over the city. Killed 19 NPCs on the list. If you really want to follow the normal process of the game to kill these 19 red NPC monsters, you must first clear the small monsters, then the boss, and you have to scan the map. Just 6 hours is not enough. Clear 20 copies in 6 hours. What an international joke. But Yilin just finished it. There's still one last person left. Before Yilin started taking action, she found the shortest route to avoid detours. The time it took to kill 19 powerful ministers of the Twin Lion Kingdom was a little less than he originally expected. If I continue like this, people will think I'm cheating. It's so cold at high places, is this what it feels like? Not long ago, when Yilin sneaked into one of the dungeons and killed the 18th Dam Minister according to the list, the experience she accumulated finally allowed Yilin to upgrade to LV35. As more and more experience is required to upgrade, the attribute bonuses at each level are precious. From level 31 to level 34 of God-given points, Yilin still followed his original idea and piled up critical hits to the end. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 2%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 2%. When equipped with a dagger, heart rate will increase by 2%. Agility at 0.3. There's nothing much to think about in this extra route. At LV35, the key God-given node, Yilin unlocked a new skill. Unlock. Yilin regretted it after the God-given touch. He has been in the game world for so long, when has he ever looked at the door lock? Yilin didn't even bother to read the skill descriptions, and she didn't have time to read them. This wave is a bit of a loss. But there is no way. The direction given by the God-given panel seems to be the route that a normal assassin should take. Who told him not to take the waterway but to take the dry road? If you don't take the usual path, you will always encounter bumps and obstacles. But Yilin didn't hesitate. It's strange. I feel like the explosion rate of this game is unscientific. Killed so many NPCs and not a single piece of equipment was revealed. Not that much. Yilin moved his index finger down, her eyes lingering on the lucky attribute for a moment, but she quickly moved away. It should have nothing to do with luck. After all, this is a realistic game, not a lottery-type online game with Krypton gold. It is very likely that the explosion rate set by the game itself is extremely low, which is why the equipment in the game is so precious. But it doesn't really matter. According to Yilin's approach, he doesn't need any defensive attributes on the armor. He just needs the bonus of understanding. He already has the Excalibur as a weapon, and he summons the 2 mother spirits to gather wool. No, just cultivate the bond value. The damage of the question mark Excalibur will naturally increase with the player's level. This is a weapon that can last a lifetime, it is both beautiful and practical. Therefore, Yilin's demand for equipment is not as strong as that of her friends. But if there is, it will naturally be more perfect. 20 minutes later, Yilin returned to the royal city. While passing by Zhongcheng, Yilin happened to see Ningyu, Xiaochuer, and Li Erpang surrounded by countless red names, lining up to beat them. Not to mention 3 circles inside and 3 outside, Yilin took a quick look and saw that dozens or 20 circles of red knights were squatting murderously outside the aperture, waiting for the fair duel within the aperture to end, and then surrounding them again. Duel. It's a fair fight. Divine witness. Li Erpang, who was wearing a green armored helmet and carrying a shield, was slashed with a roar. With the tanks here, they should be able to hold on for a while. Seeing that Li Erpang was still full of energy despite howling, Yilin felt relieved. They shouldn't be dead for a while. Perhaps because his teammates attracted 99% of the attention, when Yilin returned to the royal city, the place was deserted. If this is a game copy, then there seems to be no mobs in this copy. Ah! The chilly air was heavy and somewhat familiar. Is this your script, Homeros? Yilin quickly took drugs on the spot to replenish his blood blue. In the past 2 hours, Yilin stopped by all the major stores in Chuangshi Kingdom. They were already famous anyway, and Yilin was not polite. Yilin changed into a brand new store leather armor. Even the crystal energy bottles were replaced with large bottles. The bottle looks like it has a full 250 ml, which is about the same amount as a bottle of milk in one go. After drinking, he can hit 5 consecutive shots in one breath without any effort. After finishing the supplement, a shadow on the ground suddenly twisted, and Yilin appeared. Under the bright moonlight, an assassin with a kind smile, holding 2 translucent blood-red daggers in his hands, slowly stepped into the palace of the 2 lions. Inside the palace, it was as bright as day. Luxurious crystal lamps hang high from the ceiling. A long road paved with red carpet spread from Yilin's feet to the front. Kakaka. On both sides of the red carpet road, at the edge of the hall, 2 rows of strong knights raised their long swords at the same time, and the metal clanging sounds were emitted from the places where their armors were grinding. Yilin ignored the mobs around him. Here is the final copy of the 2 Lions Kingdom. As for boss, Yilin stepped onto the red carpet with swagger. Under the gaze of everyone, we arrived at the palace hall. At the end of the red carpet, a lonely blonde knight slowly opened his eyes and said with a smile, "How dare you come?" Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 373. In the royal city. The atmosphere solidified. The news that the powerful ministers in the city were stabbed spread throughout the royal city. Yilin held 2 daggers and slowly entered. At this time, he gave people the impression that he was filled with evil spirits and that strangers should not approach him. Originally, a mere assassin could never bring such unspeakable pressure to people. But this assassin stabbed all the important and powerful ministers of the Twin Lion Kingdom. This terrible record alone is enough to make people imagine how terrible he is. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Yilin is used to sneaking. As he walked, he stepped on his feet slightly without making any sound. But every step he took seemed to step on the chest of every knight, making people feel unbearable chest tightness. The moment Homeros spoke, Yilin did not answer. There was no pause either. Still walking step by step towards Homeros. How could he not even be afraid of Homeros, the sword master, the great knight of the country, the iceberg god, the dream lover of thousands of girls, and the man with titles that stretched to his head? What a terrifying assassin! The king of the Twin Lion Kingdom is slightly fatter, with one side of his long beard cut off, and his expression is both angry and frightened. He never expected that a mere assassin, a man pretending to be a brave, could actually bring down the two lions' kingdom to this extent. The king dared not go anywhere except this hall and this throne. Everyone else is dead. Not long ago, many people were drinking and talking at the banquet in this hall. But now, they are all dead. Blacksmith Ge Lang remained silent and walked out from behind the scenes. Beside him was Emperor Wang Tian. Yilin looked at Wang Tiandi, whose expression was as cold as a dog, and couldn't help but cast a look of contempt. "Whose dog are you?" Blacksmith Ge Lang didn't know why, but after walking a few steps, he sat down silently in a corner of the hall. Without saying a word, he raised the wine bottle and drank heavily. Guzu ran up to Blacksmith Ge Lang, wagging his tail excitedly, and a cyclone rose above his tail. "You are a real dog." Yilin kept walking and said softly. Homelos frowned and slowly typed a question mark. I didn't say anything about you." As she spoke, Yilin took a few more steps. He focused his attention on Homeros again, and his eyes met with the iceberg god for a moment. Yilin understood. He started taking lines. "You are here, why can't I come? The bold assassin has assassinated our king. You will definitely die. Didn't I get stabbed yet? Hermelos. Kill him, kill him. Execute him on the spot." The king seemed very confident in Homeros' strength. Sitting on the throne, a hint of ferocity appeared on his expression, and he started shouting loudly. As commanded. Homeros slowly drew his sword. Long sword, unsheathed. Gorgeous two-handed sword, shining brightly. This is a fair duel. The other knights outside the field saw Homeros drawing his sword and had no intention of intervening. When he walked until he was 15 meters away from Homeros, Yilin suddenly smiled. He took out a round bead with his backhand. This familiar scene made Hermelos' eyes slightly moved. Yilin didn't plan to do any extra tricks. He directly smashed the smoke bomb at his feet, and completely escaped from his body in the thick smoke. By the way, he activated shadow killing and turned into a shadow. There were many knights present who were the bodyguards of Homeros. He also participated in the city-wide manhunt not long ago. During the day, they watched helplessly as this man disappeared without a trace in the smoke. So when Yilin took out the smoke bomb, some of the melon-eating knights around him couldn't help but exclaimed. That man, is here again. Everyone, be careful. 2 rows of knights had an exclamation mark popping up above their heads. Don't get me wrong, this is not a mission. But marvel. Homeros raised his sword. Sword Master's realm, selfless realm. The moment Homeros shouted the name of the skill as usual, the Sword Master's figure was shrouded in white light, and a circle of light centered on Homelos and spread out in all directions. Oh! Yilin followed the shadow and climbed to the ceiling. Looking at the spread of the aperture, Yilin couldn't help laughing. Not long ago he had faced off in Hermelos. At that time, Homeros' skill Sword Master domain, Selfless Realm had a range of at least 15 meters. Unexpectedly, the aperture released by Hermelos shrunk by half at this moment, making it look less powerful. Look at the other knights and the king's expression. There seemed to be no surprise in his expression. So it turns out that this boss usually hides his strength in front of other people. Oh, that's it? The position where Homeros stood was very subtle. The king's throne is right on the edge of the realm of the Sword Master Homeros. In a corner of the hall, Blacksmith Ge Lang, who was drinking heavily and getting drunk alone, suddenly raised his head and looked at the back of Hermelos silently with his turbid eyes. There was no fluctuation in his cloudy eyes for a moment, but his drinking movement suddenly stopped, as if the action module suddenly got stuck. The king, who had a ferocious expression and a long brown beard, suddenly stood up from his throne. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. The light on Homeros has disappeared again. But the Sword Master domain Selfless Realm, a skill that can be called a surefire move, has actually been released. Homeros tapped the tip of his sword on the ground. No matter where the attack comes from, he will be able to detect it as soon as it enters his domain. Yulin, who knows stealth better than anyone else, and Homelos, who knows anti-stealth better than anyone else, are like the strongest spears and shields at this moment. But almost everyone present did not think that Homeros would be defeated. Because Homeros is the sword master. A recognized swordsman. A recognized handsome man. What's more, isn't Sword Master's mentor also there? Although he looks a little drunk, he is still the mentor of the Sword Master. Everyone held their breath and did not dare to speak. Except for a licking dog that was still whirring and wagging its tail, time in this hall seemed to be completely frozen, silent and eerily quiet. How quiet is it? Maybe someone accidentally farts at this moment, and it will make a loud noise. Bo. Suddenly. The king was stunned. He is green. -3. A green number floated from the king's forehead. At the moment when the king turned green inexplicably, two translucent daggers appeared silently behind the king. Following like a shadow. Shadow kill. Poison quenching dagger. Two sword style. Concentrate. Venom assassination. Breath work. Shadow shattering blow. Yulin was so emotional that she immediately used a skillful combo, stabbing out both daggers at the same time, and stabbed the king's sparse hair on the back of his head. -2333. The UI interface in front of Yulin shook violently. A large number rose from the back of the king's head. Yulin, who was just about to throw another poison-quenching dagger and sneak back into the second set of combos, was slightly startled. Got a clue. It was a knowing blow. This is very unexpected. I don't know why, but Yulin always feels that the probability of this game is a bit cloudy. It was obvious that his knowing rate was getting higher and higher, but the probability of landing a knowing blow was horribly low. That's why Yulin came up with the idea of using the God-given panel to increase her heart rate to 100%. As long as it reaches 100%, there is no chance anymore. This poke directly delivered a knowing blow. With the addition of various skills, the damage of this poke was amplified to a terrifying level by the formula. 4-digit damage. A full 4-digit damage. Beside him, Goza's eyes suddenly widened. Very surprised. Not to mention the dog, even Yulin was stunned for a moment by the terrifying damage figure. This damage formula is very confusing. If he keeps playing like this, he will be suspected of cheating. Call out. A big hole was poked out of the back of the king's head, and blood spurted out. While spraying, the king didn't even have time to scream, and fell to the ground, motionless and no longer breathing. The blood spurting out from the back of his head was like a small fountain. The moment Yulin suffered a huge amount of damage, she habitually took drugs again, lurked, and hid in the darkness. As soon as the others discovered that the king had fallen to the ground, Yulin had already disappeared from them and did not enter a fighting state. King. A trace of sorrow flashed in Homeros's eyes. He exclaimed, knelt on one knee in front of the king's body, and closed his eyes. The other melon-eating knights who were watching were completely stunned and froze on the spot. Ah, this is dead? The king is dead? Without any precaution, it suddenly disappeared? From Yulin's entrance, Homeros pretending to use his ultimate move, the king's head turning green, to the king falling to the ground and announcing clinical death, the whole process was incredibly fast. Not even a minute. So much happened in just 1 minute. The biggest thing is of course the death of the king. All the melon-eating knights did not have time to react. They forgot to search for the assassin and forgot to mourn. Now, what should I do? Having said this, the others suddenly realized that the great knight was indeed a great knight. He reacted so quickly at this time. He immediately knelt down in front of the king, closed his eyes and observed silence, sending a timely condolence to the king who was still alive not long ago. Homeros still maintained his original posture. Close your eyes and mourn. No matter who is looking at that man's back, he can read a feeling of sadness and despair. The emotion spread like a snowball in the hall, and others also felt the same, and understood the sadness in the heart of the man kneeling on the ground, Homeros. Great knight Homeros. Suddenly, someone among the melon-eating knights was the first to cry. Someone finally reacted and knelt on the ground with a plop. The king was stabbed to death. This news will spread throughout the entire king as quickly as possible. Congratulations, you successfully assassinated the current king of the Twin Lion Kingdom. The reputation value of the Twin Lion Kingdom -2000. Current reputation level, hatred. Please keep up the good work. What the hell did I do? Outside the city, in the middle of a turn-based battle, Li Erpang, Ning Yu, and Xiao Chuer, who were struggling to hold on, received the good news at the same time. Li Erpang rolled his eyes, twitched at the corners of his mouth, and fell straight backwards. In the main hall, the knights wept in unison. Homeros mourned. It seemed that everyone had forgotten the assassin who successfully killed the king. Yilin lurked deeply in the shadows, frowning. He stared at the completion progress 19/20ths of the side mission Hermelos's deal and fell into deep thought. No one noticed that the bright red blood in the back of the king's head that had been stabbed turned into a faint black gas. Yilin turned into a shadow and suddenly came behind Homeros, not far away. Homelos must still be in the Sword Master realm at this moment. Yilin did not dare to get too close, fearing that Homelos would cut him down with a sword. Really? Homeros' armor trembled slightly, as if he was sensing Yilin's approach. Ziahe. Yilin's voice came from the long shadow behind Homeros. Something's wrong. The king is not dead. Hearing this, Homeros suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the corpse of the king in front of him in surprise. He didn't have time to pursue the matter of Yilin calling him Xiaohe. And right now, the king of the Twin Lions Kingdom, who was supposed to have grass growing 3 feet high on his grave, was completely cold. The joints of his limbs made a crackling sound and twisted on the ground. In Homeros's surprised gaze, the corpse of the king of the 2 lion kingdoms was in a strange posture, like a puppet being pulled, making bursts of joint-bending sounds. Stand up again. Hee hee, what a waste of a toy. Country, king, alive again? This strange scene caused the crying in the hall to stop abruptly. After Yilin reminded him, Homelos' attention quickly fell on the king. The king's limbs and joints were twisted at a strange angle, and his head hung to one side. The king's eyes were turned up until the pupils were no longer visible, and red and black bloodshot eyes gradually spread in the whites of his eyes. Hey hey hey! The cold laughter spread throughout the hall. Dark blood seeped out between the king's fingers and between his teeth. When he grinned, his mouth was filled with black, red, and white colors. This smile was so weird that no one was guarding it. Hey hey hey! Suddenly, in Yilin's eyes, the information above the king who was supposed to be dead changed rapidly. The puppet master of the 6 evil generals. LV? It turns out that this is the real boss. In the shadows, Yilin suddenly realized. Homeros suddenly smiled. That's it, no wonder. Yilin stood behind Homeros. At this moment, I wonder if it was Yilin's misunderstanding. He felt that after the sudden change in the king, the back of the man in front of him suddenly relaxed a lot, as if some kind of burden was suddenly lifted off, and Homeros gave people a new look. The red-named boss with puppet master of the 6 evil generals written on his forehead has a weird smile. Those eyes that were white and bleeding made it impossible to tell the point and focus of those eyes. But Yilin was hiding behind Homelos, but she felt like she was being watched by him. As expected of the legendary sword master Homelos, he truly deserves to be the prophesied brave man. I have been lurking in this country for many years, and unexpectedly, I was discovered by you. Oh, Homelos, you actually joined forces with outsiders to kill the king is dead, you are no longer worthy of being a knight. Shut up. Hermelo's expression remained unchanged, he pointed his sword and said in a cold voice, "Damn monster, where is the real king?" "The real king," the puppet master chuckled, "I am the real king. You have worked hard these years, Hermelos. On behalf of my Supreme Lord, I would like to thank you for your contribution to the Lord's resurrection plan. Hey hey hey. It's a pity. I originally wanted to play for a while longer before our Lord was resurrected." Suddenly, the knights around him groaned in pain. Everyone's posture was the same as that of the king's corpse, their joints were twisted, making crisp noises, and they were walking towards Homeros involuntarily. The way the limbs are twisted, if it's a corpse, but if it's placed on a living person, I can't imagine the pain. Fortunately, this is a game, so when you think about it, it's not so cruel. This boss's ability seems to be that he can use some kind of skill to control the human body, whether living or dead. It's a bit weird. And the boss's level is far beyond the limit that I can detect. I don't know whether it is Homeros who is higher in level or the puppet master who is higher in level. 6 evil generals. What's the origin? Although Yilin was greedy for the boss's experience and the treasures that were about to be revealed, but without any confidence, Yilin did not take action for the time being. She turned into a shadow and moved quickly, lying down in the shadow of the ceiling again. Fortunately, Yilin's ability is like cheating. Except for Homelos, who has activated Sword Master Realm Selfless Realm, he can notice a little bit of Yilin's movements. The 6 evil generals' puppet master also did not notice Yilin's movements. Action. Hermelos, I know you too well. Because, I have been watching you all these years. Watch you grow up, watch you practice sword. I am your father, Hermelos. 6 evils split the corners of the puppet master's mouth into long cracks on both sides. Hiss. The corners of the corpse's mouth were really cracked, and 2 lines of red and black blood spread from the open wound. The big smile looked like a clown, which was very weird. He suddenly looked back at Blacksmith Ge Lang, who was silent in the corner, and let out a hoarse laugh. "You are getting old too." Blacksmith Ge Lang closed his eyes, responded, took a sip of wine, and then said expressionlessly, "Goodbye." Hermelos, who had been silent all this time, suddenly let out a long breath. "Father." "Ah." Suddenly, a bright smile appeared on Homeros' face that Yilin had never seen before. The iceberg male god's personality collapsed instantly. "Then die, father." The realm of the sword master, the ultimate in refinement. Homeros, draw your sword. Hiss. A bright sword light stung everyone's eyes, including Yilin. At the moment when Homeros drew his sword against the 6 evil puppet masters and caused substantial damage, the rules of the game world came into effect as promised. The phantom of the scale appeared above the hall, and a circle of light fell from the void, about to kill Homeros and the 6 evils. Shroud the puppet master inside. It turns out that fights between NPCs are also turn-based. Such an idea just came to Yilin's mind. The sword light was as fast as lightning, and the dazzling sword light made Yilin blink subconsciously in the shadows. But in the blink of an eye, the bright sword light disappeared without a trace. At some point, Homeros had already sheathed the long sword in both hands and stood there with his back to the 6 evil generals and puppet master. It's over. The health bar of 6 evil generals and puppet master was instantly cleared. Second, instant kill. The god's aperture and the phantom of the scale disappeared again before they could fully fall on the heads of the 2 bosses. Yilin's expression was solemn. He was once again glad that he did not choose to fight this boss hard. It was really the most correct decision he had made since playing this game. Yilin slowly looked towards the side of the hall. The cold moonlight passed through the gap and fell into the hall. This royal palace. It was split open by Hermelo's sword. In front of Homeros, from the ground, walls, and ceiling, a neat sword mark with sharp edges cut everything in sight in half. Left half, right half. Including boss. The boss didn't even have time to fart. Under the sword master domain, the ultimate of thousands of refinements, he instantly turned into ashes and scattered in the hall. So scary. Homeros used a pretentious angle of 45 degrees to look up at the moonlight shining through the sword marks, with a complicated expression as he murmured to himself. He repeated what he said not long ago. It's over. It was the same sentence, 3 words, but to Yilin's ears, the meaning was completely different. Yilin didn't dare to show up. He was afraid that Homeros was not satisfied with his chops, so he chopped him off too. Until there was a ding in Yilin's ear. Ding. Mission accomplished. Refers to the mission of Homeros. Although the 20th mission monster was hacked to death by Homelos himself. However, the system still determined that Yilin had completed the task and could not fake it. The moment the task was completed, Yilin finally breathed a sigh of relief. Thump, thump, thump. After the puppet master of the 6 evil generals, the boss who had been hacked to death in less than a minute since his real appearance, turned into ashes and disappeared, the melon-eating knights around him fell to the ground one after another, unable to move on the ground and moaning. The pain after being manipulated cannot be relieved in a short time. And the twisted joints also require subsequent treatment. Come out. Homeros spoke into the air. Yilin moved slightly away. This time, he expanded the limit range of Homeros to 30 meters. This boss is so good at hiding his strength that he is too paralyzed to show his martial ethics, even hiding it from the 6 evil generals and puppet master who have been watching his growth. Seeing Yilin standing far away at the entrance of the palace and not coming forward, Hermelos knew the reason and was quite speechless, but he was too lazy to say anything more. He is too tired. It's over. These words were not only directed at Homeros, but also at Yilin. Homeros used the communication crystal to quickly convey everything that happened in the hall to his cronies. The fact that the king is actually a monster has been witnessed by so many melon-eating knights in the hall and cannot be lied to. The Yilin team has also transformed from wanted criminals to real brave men who cooperate with hero Homelos to save the Twin Lion Kingdom from danger and free the 100,000 people of the Twin Lion Kingdom from the control of monsters. The most obvious change is, in front of Yilin's eyes, all the NPCs instantly turned into green names. Green and lush. Yilin silently opened the panel. Reputation of the Twin Lion Kingdom, friendly, 0/6000. This is friendly. Yilin was both surprised and not surprised. Even his reputation became friendly, and Yilin stepped forward with confidence. Looking at Homelo's slightly tired expression, he smiled and said, "Xiao He, do you have any worldview settings or something like that? You want to tell me already?" Homelos frowned and slowly typed a question mark. All this was so fast that it caught people off guard. The fat man who was being attacked by hundreds of thousands of red monsters in Zhongcheng district inexplicably almost fainted from fright after receiving the system message that Yilin has killed the king of the Twin Lion Kingdom and shouted, "It's over, it's over, it's over." Unexpectedly, in just 2 minutes, there was a loud bang in the direction of the palace, the sky lit up, and everything suddenly calmed down. The hundreds of thousands of red monsters in front of me suddenly turned into a green field, and Quan Ti Miao turned into a friendly NPC. Not to mention Li Erpang, even the experienced Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer thought it was very outrageous and never expected it. They all almost used their own back UPS, leaving the little fat man behind and preparing to run away. Fortunately, I didn't break my skin. Ahem. All in all, everyone is happy. When Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang looked confused, they were escorted by a group of friendly NPCs to the royal palace and met Yilin again. Yilin looked at the tattered equipment on the three teammates and their durability was about to reach zero, with a very surprised expression. Didn't I tell you not to come out? Are you just living in the cell with peace of mind? How could you do this? To end up like this?" After finishing speaking, Yilin showed an expression of sadness and regret that you didn't listen to your advice. From the appearance of the equipment, you can imagine how badly the teammates suffered that night. Li Erpang, Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, Homeros, Auranos. The whole world was speechless for a moment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 374. That skill of yours, how do you use it? Can I learn it? It's the kind of skill that you have honed over time. Homeros used his usual posture to show off silently. Yilin saw that after her reputation was upgraded to friendly, she was not afraid of being hacked by her mellows, so it was rare for her to ask shamelessly. What if players can also learn? As an assassin, Yilin was very greedy for this kind of killing move that could kill everything with one sword. If he learned this trick, coupled with various combos, maybe even the giant beast can be pierced with one knife? Thinking about it, Yilin was still a little excited. Can. Homelos had a sullen face, looked up at the sky from a 45-degree angle, and glanced at Yilin. Is it really possible? Yilin was slightly surprised. Swing the sword 10,000 times a day, persist for 10 years, and you will naturally learn it. Is there any quick fix? The kind that you can understand after just one bite. Roll. Yilin originally wanted to say, Xiao He, you can't do it. The majestic swordsman doesn't even have quick skills. But after thinking about it, Yilin still didn't say anything. Lest this boss suddenly fall out and become hostile again. Tonight's incident made Yilin afraid to treat Homeros as an ordinary NPC. This city is outrageous. How is it different from humans? Although Yilin was envious of the Sword Master realm, the ultimate thousands of refinements, since he couldn't learn it quickly, he had no choice but to give up the idea. After all, he can't really be like the NPC in the game, wielding his sword silently for 10 years. This is just a game setting. You have known for a long time that something is wrong with your king. Yilin asked again. Perhaps it was because Yilin had helped a lot tonight, but Homeros did not hide it. He sighed softly, but there was a trace of unconcealable relief on his face, and he said, I didn't expect this ending. But this country has long been rotten to the core. Although this was not the answer to the question, Yilin pondered for a moment and finally understood, the so-called chivalry education is also because it is easier to control. A look of surprise flashed in Homeros's eyes. He didn't seem to expect that Yilin's words were so direct, like a knife stabbing the country directly. Homelos hesitated for a moment and nodded, confirming Yilin's guess. I see. It's not chivalry that's wrong. I understand, what you want to say next is that what is wrong is actually the human heart, right? Still have a question. Explain. What is the prophecy left behind in this country? Homeros chuckled, the brave man will bring his dog and companions to destroy this country. Destroy. Yilin lowered his head, pondering the profound meaning of this prophecy. Homeros, yes, destruction. Soon, Yilin also laughed, I killed this country from top to bottom? To a certain extent, it can be said to be destroyed. No wonder you want to use my hands to do it in this matter, as the great knight of the country, if you are responsible for cleaning up this country, even if the final outcome is good, the citizens who have been made stupid by chivalry have no way to understand you fundamentally. So you have been waiting for this day. Yes. After destruction, there is new life. Homeros laughed again. Since everything ended, Hermelos seems to be smiling more and more. And he still had that pretentious smile. You are so insidious. Homeros' smile suddenly froze. While Homeros and Yulin were bragging in the palace of the royal city that was split in two, the other knights lined up in an orderly manner and entered the royal city one after another. Because the upper echelons of the Twin Lions Kingdom are now safely buried, top and bottom, successfully on base. Homeros has become the only remaining leadership class in the Two Lions Kingdom, and Homeros has the final say in everything. In addition, Homeros has a very high reputation in the hearts of every citizen of the Twin Lion Kingdom. All subsequent transfers of power will be logical and natural. All that is left is a much anticipated ceremony. The knights manipulated by 6 evil generals' puppet master only had multiple joints dislocated. They could recover after treatment and rest for a period of time, leaving no serious sequelae. Among the knights who were playing turn-based games with Little Fatty and others in Midtown, many knights became experience points. But this sacrifice, in the words of Hermelos, is. This country's new life will be accompanied by a short period of pain, but it will all be worth it. Shortly after, Ning Yu, Xiao Chuer, Li Erpang and others returned from purchasing supplies in the city. They couldn't help but marvel when they saw Yulin and the big boss who had chased them all over the city talking and laughing in the main hall. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer couldn't help but have another thought in their minds. You really deserve to be the protagonist. Li Erpang approached cautiously. Seeing that Homelos had no intention of coming to see him with a knife, he complained to Yulin in a low voice, I don't know what's going on. The weapons shop, armor shop, and grocery store all said they were out of stock, and there was no choice of equipment. There was only 1 or 2 items. It's strange, even in such a big city, even NPCs are out of stock. Outrageous. Ahem, yes, outrageous, outrageous. Yulin coughed twice, her expression calm and calm. Of course he knew why these shops were so outrageous. But as a human being, you must have a bottom line. You can't empty out everything, otherwise Li Erpang will not complain now, but hug the thigh of the shop NPC and cry. His equipment had been beaten to pieces by hundreds of thousands of NPCs, and it was so damaged that it couldn't be broken anymore. It just so happens that the reputation of the Twin Lion Kingdom has been upgraded to friendly, and there is a 10% discount for shopping in the store. It is not a loss to change the equipment here. After several people gathered together, Blacksmith Ge Lang and the dog, who had been missing since the boss 6 evil generals and puppet master were chopped into ashes by Hermelos' extreme strength, now walked out from behind the palace. Blacksmith Ge Lang remained taciturn, silently filling his mouth with lonely wine. If a few people hadn't been able to smell the strong aroma of wine from Blacksmith Ge Lang, they might have thought he was drinking sparkling water. Goza walked beside Blacksmith Ge Lang, shaking his head and wagging his tail, his expression as sullen as when he just came out of the moonlight forest, like a scumbag. Li Erpang took a closer look. What the hell? I saw that Wang Tiandi's claws were covered with a pair of shining sharp claws with several exquisite lines carved on the surface. They were obviously not popular products. This dog actually also got new equipment. Homelos smiled, Master, your craftsmanship is still so superb. Obviously, from the NPC's perspective, he also saw that Wang Tiandi's pair of claws were not shop items. Old. Blacksmith Ge Lang's masked face revealed a smile once in a lifetime and uttered 2 words. So outrageous. I want to complain. Li Erpang had the idea of complaining against the game company. Even a dog NPC's equipment is better than the players. Can this game company still give players a pleasant gaming experience? I really answered that sentence. Licking the dog, licking everything until the end. Goza showed off his new weapon in front of a few people, and then he licked his paws and put the weapon away. This expression made Li Erpang so angry that he wanted to search for all kinds of dog-shaped monsters in the wild leveling area and eat several dog meat pots to vent his hatred. When Homeros saw the team of braves, dogs, and friends regrouping, he said to Yulin, "It's time for you to go. The aerospace boat and people are ready, you can set off at any time. This is what I promised you. Anything else?" Yulin smiled. He didn't forget that there was another mission reward. Homelos was silent for a moment, then threw two delicate transparent balls towards Yulin. "Get Aurora sailing pointer. Get Poro sailing pointer. Get mission rewards." Yulin took a look at the attributes of the props, and then quickly put them away. After Yulin thought that everything was over, Homeros clapped his hands, and an NPC knight, a tool man who had been waiting for a long time, stepped forward and handed him a box. "This is..." Yulin looked at the treasure chest-shaped box and her eyelids twitched slightly. Homeros smiled slightly and said nothing. "Right now." Everyone in the team heard a ding in their ears at the same time. Bing again. A ding at a critical moment is generally not a bad thing. Ding. Congratulations. Complete an important hidden plot branch, Nirvana in the Kingdom of Two Lions. The reputation value of the Twin Lion Kingdom is at 3,000. Your courage has been recognized by Uranus and you have completed the hidden achievement, Witness the destruction and rebirth of the Twin Lion Kingdom. Get the title, Brave. Get additional rewards, Double Lion Kingdom Mysterious National Treasure Gift Pack *1. Big gift package. Li Erpang stared at the little treasure box and tried to open his eyes, trying to see clearly. The corner of Ning Right's mouth twitched. The style of this gift package really looks like a money-making game. Xiao Chuer smiled, glanced at Yulin with a calm expression, and whispered to herself, witnessing the destruction and rebirth of the Twin Lion Kingdom? It's quite interesting, isn't it? Yulin quickly put away the small treasure box. Looking at Yulin's skillful movements, Li Erpang felt a pain in his heart and hesitated to speak. No one expected that there would be an additional bonus. But Yulin contributed the most to the whole thing. Unless they broke up, others could only watch. As for killing people and grabbing treasures and exploding equipment, it's hard to say whether players in this game will explode something after they die. Yulin looked at the expressions of the others and instantly understood what his teammates were thinking. Even the dog took out its claws silently. How could Yulin not understand? Get out of here first and we'll split up later. Ning Yu, understood. Li Erpang, okay. Xiao Chuer, the needle won't poke. Dog, woof. The teammates and the dog smiled at the same time. The rewards for Homeros have been distributed, and he has become a very affectionate NPC again. Before leaving, Homeros had one last word for the team. Others were not present at the time and could only understand half of the words. But Yulin took note of it carefully. The 6 evil generals and the puppet master are not dead. Also, be careful of Emperor Song Augie Anthony. At the end, Blacksmith Galang and her Mellows looked at each other without any words of farewell or any emotion. They nodded. Blacksmith Galang turned and left, following Yulin and others. Others don't know exactly what skills Homeros has learned from Blacksmith Galang, but his pretentious style is exactly the same. It's probably the same person who even designed the character. Yulin's team didn't dare to delay. After spending a lot of time in the Two Lions Kingdom, I finally got the right to use the aerostat, as well as a team of NPC pilots who can fly the aerostat. I can't wait to leave the country immediately and go to a more advanced leveling area. In the words of Wang Li Erpang, it is, the goal of our high-end players is the stars and the sea of clouds. Li Erpang stood on the deck, looking at the country in the dark night, and said with emotion, although Fatty is gone, the legend of Fatty is left everywhere in this country. This is an adventure. At the same time, in the south of the Kingdom of Two Lions, Where the fire rages. 14 pitch-black aerostats, with black steam billowing out, quickly headed towards the sky above the Twin Lions Kingdom. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 375. The aerostat sailed successfully. Fortunately, no bloody accident occurred. Several people witnessed the destruction and rebirth of the two Lion Kingdoms, and while completing hidden achievements, they also received a brand new title. Li Erpang was enjoying the breeze on the deck and looking at the scenery, his mind jumping between the two titles: Stop Bullying the Children and Brave. After thinking carefully for a moment, he finally equipped it with Stop Bullying Children. After all, this title is unique. Isn't it bad to have a title for everyone? Where is his ability as an elite player? What's more, the title Brave, viewed horizontally and vertically, always reminds people of heroic sacrifice, which feels unlucky. This NPC pilot team is configured as a 12-man team. They are just tool men and NPCs, and they are all men. Li Erpang can't even think of flirting with the NPCs. 4 people and 1 dog were all on deck. The sky in the distance is already bright. The sun has not yet risen, and as far as the eye can see, there is a vast sea of white clouds. There are no other clouds in the clear sky. The breeze is blowing and the clouds are rolling. This is a rare scene outside the game world. The Shuangshizhou aero boat has been sailing for half an hour. As for the choice of the next destination, after several people discussed it, they decided to go to the giant fire beast, Boros first. The thought of arriving at a new leveling area, being able to travel to new customs, and refresh new monsters, made several people feel a little excited. Of course, this kind of excitement cannot last long. No, it was a vast sea of clouds and nothing. The little fat man soon got tired of seeing it and felt a little bored. By the way, how long will that kid stay there? Li Erpang showed his title again, bored and squinting, breaking the silence of zero reply on the deck. Xiao Chuer thought for a while and made a reasonable guess: are you pretending to be cool? Ning Yu's statement was more realistic: I guess he is hesitating whether to open treasure chests and distribute equipment with us. Damn it! If you didn't tell me, I almost forgot about that gift package. After Ning Yu kindly reminded him, Li Erpang suddenly remembered this important matter. Games, aren't they all about opening boxes, killing monsters, and exploding equipment? Opening the box is the most exciting moment. Li Erpang's mind suddenly became more active. Since setting sail, Yilin has been standing alone on the edge of the deck, staring into the depths of the sea of clouds, wondering what she is thinking. And because she was currently in a vast sea of clouds, Yilin was carrying a heavy treasure and could not escape by jumping into the sea of clouds, and the others did not panic. Another moment passed. In the eyes of others, Yilin finally finished showing off, or finished hesitating, and walked towards her teammates step by step. Li Erpang rubbed his palms and felt that his hands were red. Emperor Wang Tian raised his dog legs. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer smiled slightly. Blacksmith Ge Lang was close to the door, drinking alone. He seemed to have no interest in what was in the treasure box. Yilin saw everyone's reaction, smiled kindly, and handed something to Ning Yu. Ning Yu was stunned. That thing was not the gift package as imagined. It is a transparent bead with a pointer suspended inside. If you look closely at the pointer in the bead, you will find that the direction pointed by the pointer will slowly change direction as time goes by. As Homeros said, this world is based on the worldview of the sea of clouds and giant beasts. Each continent is actually a moving giant beast. It is not fixed somewhere in the sea of clouds, but changes its position anytime and anywhere. In the vast sea of clouds, no one knows how big the map of this game is. Without a navigation pointer, it is impossible to reach the next destination smoothly. Obtain Poro's navigation pointer. A prompt popped up in front of Ning Yu's eyes. Brother Yilin, what are you? A trace of doubt flashed in Ning's right eye. Yilin scratched his head. It's nothing, just in case. I carry an Aurora pointer with me. You should take this Boros pointer with you. If we get separated due to some accident, it won't be the same. There is no direction in the sea of clouds. Lost. Just in case? Ningyu carefully thought about what the in case Yilin said was the situation. Yilin did not give Ningyu a chance to think carefully, and immediately told the story of what happened in the Two Lions Kingdom in a concise manner. In fact, it was said that they were witnessing the story of the Two Lion Kingdoms together, but in fact, Yilin was the only one who actually witnessed and participated in it. To put it nicely, other teammates are just trying to make a fool of themselves. To put it worse, they are just being beaten silently in the midst of thousands of troops. So other teammates didn't know what happened that night. The story is such a story, and the details in it have been slightly modified by Yilin. In short, all information about his abilities is completely hidden. After carefully listening to the story Yilin relayed, Ningyu and Xiao Chuer felt that there were some details in it that seemed a little wrong. This Homero seemed to be full of character, but in some of the plots Yilin recounted, they were inexplicably confused. Decided to change his mind, he assigned the task to Yilin. Something is wrong, but when I think of Yilin as the protagonist, everything seems to make sense. So they no longer delved into it, but just sighed. Unexpectedly, a mere game could also shrink the rise and fall of a country, the change of power, and the struggle between NPCs in a city and display it in front of the players. Actually, apart from being a bit of a pitfall, this game is not without its merits. Haha, this is the legendary saying of using money to buy plots and using your feet to make games. Maybe this game script was bought and has nothing to do with the game company. This Hermelos is so insidious. Xiao Chuer covered her mouth and said with a smile, my parents are handsome, what does it have to do with being sinister? This is called city government and wisdom. If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense. After all, he is also a super male god of a country. Interpreting this story from a woman's perspective, the style of the story is instantly different. Others were speechless and too lazy to refute. After a brief discussion, everyone was not distracted by Yilin. Li Erpang chuckled, what, where is the box? My hands are red, I'll do it. Yilin wondered, this box should have a fixed reward, right? What do you think you can get? Ningyu smiled and said, not necessarily, you'll know only after you open it. Fine. Yilin sighed. In fact, no one knew that when he was thinking quietly on the deck just now, he secretly opened the box behind his teammates' backs. It was opened and then closed again. If Yilin was more shameless, she could just put any prop in there, like wolf leg meat, to fool her. But after thinking about it, the treasures in his backpack seemed to be rarer than the original treasures in the box, so Yilin could only put the box intact in the box. In front of his teammates. How much money will this cost? Yilin secretly felt sad, and this was the real reason for him to sigh. 4 people and 1 dog sat in a circle around the small treasure box. Who drives it? Li Erpang slapped his hand on the box, shook his head, and democratically consulted his teammates for their opinions. Ningyu moved, but sighed, okay, you can drive. Xiao Chuer whispered with disdain, shameless. Li Erpang chuckled. He had already warmed his palms and they were red. After others agreed, the little fat man decisively opened the box. Hiss. A ray of light stung everyone's eyes. Yilin already knew what was in the box and had no worries in her heart. But at this moment, in order to show that she was unaware, Yilin was surprised and shouted, what? It's actually a crystal. Water, crystal. Because of his innate advantage, Li Erpang had a small aperture and sufficient vision under strong light, so he could see the legendary treasure clearly at once. Blacksmith Ge Lang came over at some unknown time, with a hint of surprise on his expression. "I didn't expect Hermelos to give this thing away." Gradually, everyone saw the treasure in the box clearly. No one expected that what was contained in this box was actually a Excalibur crystal. "It's the Excalibur." Li Erpang's palms trembled slightly, and he slowly stretched out his hand towards the radiant Excalibur crystal in the box, and said intermittently, "It is said that there are only 49 top equipments in the entire game, Excalibur. This is it, got it? Am I dreaming? Have I reached the pinnacle of a player's life in an instant? Is it time to marry Bai Fume?" But Li Erpang's hand hasn't touched the crystal yet. Xiao Chuer and Ning Yu were faster, slapping their hands on the crystal at the same time. For a moment, the atmosphere was awkward and silent. "Huh," Blacksmith Ge Lang smiled coldly and explained to the players, "Don't you think that as long as you get the Excalibur crystal, you will be able to synchronize with the Excalibur?" Everyone looked at Blacksmith Ge Lang, as if waiting for an explanation. The divine sword only waits for the right person. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't have been lying in the treasury for so many years. No way. Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer were stunned at the same time and looked at Yilin. Exclusively for the protagonist? So bloody? Although Blacksmith Ge Lang was talking about a destined person, in the eyes of Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer, this destined person was clearly the protagonist Yilin. Otherwise, why would you give the protagonist a gift package? The treatment of this protagonist is outrageous. Not to mention Li Erpang, Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer, the two apostles who understood the truth, immediately had the idea of complaining against the game company. Do you want to help the protagonist cheat so obviously? Yilin smiled and glanced at a few people, taking in the small movements, expressions, and eyes of several teammates. It seems that the Excalibur also chooses its master. Interesting setting. Shall I try it first? Yilin had already spoken, but Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer remained silent, but they still put away their hands at the same time. Under the different eyes of everyone, Yilin quickly stretched out his hand to the Excalibur crystal. Hiss. The crystal that radiated light first flashed, and then quickly dimmed. Everyone, dog. Yilin didn't look too surprised. She retracted her palm and said with a smile, "It seems that I am not the destined person." Ning Yu and Xiao Chuer were dumbfounded. Isn't it a plug-in for the protagonist? Who is that for? Shouldn't they give us these two serious apostles? Is there such a benefit? Snapped. While Ning Yu, Go, and Xiao Chuer were hesitating whether to give it a try, Li Erpang didn't follow martial ethics and snapped the Excalibur crystal in front of the others. In an instant, the divine sword crystal shone brightly. Li Erpang looked confused. Others were also confused. This reaction isn't right. In Li Erpang's hands, the crystal quickly decomposed and separated, and the light flowed. After a while, the brilliant stream of light that the crystal decomposed into quickly gathered in the void in front of Li Erpang. A tall and sturdy figure came across the border. "Excalibur, Susu. Come in obedience to the call. I ask you. Are you my master?" A 1.99 meter tall figure with a soft and sweet voice was staring deeply at Li Erpang with gentle, watery eyes. Li Erpang. Infinity Throne. Author, Bai Xueshi. Chapter 376. Early morning. The Kingdom of Two Lions. Inner City, Palace, Main Hall. Emperor Song Augie Anthony, after a long journey, finally arrived in this country. Before the Holy Sea Army arrived, Homelos had used the fastest speed to stabilize the chaotic situation. In fact, it is not difficult. In the peace list, those who have the ability to create greater chaos have been assassinated one by one. Homeros even held a simple condolence ceremony overnight and went through a formality. The remaining small fish and shrimps were not taken seriously by Homelos at all. Emperor George Anthony slowly turned the crystal finger on his thumb and stood in front of this man with a face as deep as water, the corners of his eyes twitching slightly. In the main hall, the sword mark that split the palace in half had not had time to be repaired. In other words, the owner of that sword mark had no intention of repairing it at all. The gorgeous two-handed sword has not yet been unsheathed, leaning against the throne, with murderous intent hidden in it, and it feels a little like a demonstration. Homeros lowered his back and straddled the horse, sitting on the throne with a domineering posture. His heavy armor was still on, his hands were clenched into fists, and he held his chin. In a plain but unquestionable tone, he said what he said not long ago in the Emperor's song. In front of Augie Anthony, he repeated it again. They ran away. Run away, Pope de Ge sneered, do you think I will believe it? Believe it or not, it's up to you. Hermelos had no intention of talking nonsense. He changed to a more comfortable position, put one hand on the hilt of the sword beside him, and repeated it again, our country is in turmoil, and a monster pretends to be the king, countless knights have seen it with their own eyes. They have no time to hunt down fugitives. The easy-to-understand translation of this sentence probably means, I am very busy and have no time to talk to you. The translation of body language is probably, if you keep talking nonsense, I will kill you. Pope de Ge's movement of turning his fingers suddenly stopped. He gritted his teeth so hard that his gums bled. The two looked at each other for a long time. Finally, Pope de Ge breathed a long sigh of relief, turned and left. Walk. Haha, you are actually trying to do everything in front of me, the actor of movies. With this kind of acting, if there are no unspoken rules, you won't even be ranked in the top 18. Pope de Ge took the lead, followed by the other priests, great priests, Holy See soldiers, and nuns, who lined up in an orderly manner. Pope de Ge suddenly took a few steps faster. The Vatican attendants behind him also quickened their pace upon seeing this. Pope de Ge suddenly turned around and looked at the little tails behind him with a serious face. You guys, stay away from me, it's bad for the air. After Emperor Song, Pope finally got a little private space. He quickly took out the small flask from his arms. In the flask, black air surged, mysteriously. Humph, didn't you say that you have already controlled the Twin Lion Kingdom? Why do you sound like farting when you talk? Oh, by the way, I almost forgot, you can't even fart now. I didn't expect that Hermelos would be so forbearing, but hey, you underestimate my arrangement in the Kingdom of Two Lions. Pope de Ge had a low-pitched conversation with the black air in the flask. Not long after, Pope de Ge put the flask away with a calm expression. A patrolling knight, his movements slightly stiff, slowly walked towards Pope de Ge and his party. Boros, Aurora. The knight, who was slow and stiff, left a word in a dull tone, then turned and left. Haha, do you want to choose one of the two? After the knight walked not far away, in a deserted corner, he suddenly twitched all over, fell to the ground with a plop, and made no more noise. The Holy See's group quickly left the Kingdom of Two Lions and boarded the aeroboat again outside the city. Children make choices. I, Emperor George Augie Anthony, want them all. Act in batches. Once you find that damn aerostat, give it to me, ahem, give it to me, blast it. For a moment, Pope de Ge was in high spirits, and special effects of overlapping and bright lights appeared above his head again. Faraday Intermediate Aerostat. On deck. Excalibur, Susu. Come in obedience to the call. I ask you. Are you my master? The moment that tall and strong figure appeared, everyone was stunned. No one, including Li Erpang, expected that it would be Li Erpang who successfully synchronized with the divine sword crystal and concluded a contract of never leaving each other for eternity. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer should have been envious and jealous. But when the two of them saw the true face of the Excalibur, Suddenly, they were no longer so envious and jealous. Even a little lucky. Fortunately, I didn't have the skills to slap him. If it happens, wouldn't you be asking for trouble? And the initiator of everything, Li Erpang, stared at the 1.99-meter tall strong figure in front of him, listening to the sweet and soft female voice, speechless for a long time, completely stunned, silent, annoyed, and regretful. A mixture of emotions. Let me ask you, are you my master? Seeing that Li Erpang didn't speak, the divine sword who called himself Susu smiled brightly and asked again. Li Erpang's face turned pale, his lips suddenly twitched like shaking a sieve, and he shook his head crazily. I wish I could break my neck, causing a comminuted fracture of the cervical vertebrae, high paralysis, hemiplegia, and incontinence. No, you got the wrong person, I'm not. I'm not. Even Li Erpang himself couldn't explain this feeling clearly. Originally, his ability to accept was very strong. As an elite player, no matter what happens, no matter how weird, unexpected, or outrageous, he can deal with it calmly, smile and say nothing. Unless, I can't help it. The figure of the divine sword in front of him made Li Erpang feel the fear from the depths of his soul. Even if I lose my memory, I still have an indelible fear. Li Erpang had an illusion that in front of this 199-meter figure, he would be crushed into a small ball at any time, rounded, flattened, and played with in a casserole-sized hand. Divine Sword Susu twisted her thin crescent eyebrows and slowly typed a question mark. She raised her hand, and a shimmering translucent chain tightly connected her to Li Erpang, the kind of person who would never leave each other and grow old together. But, you are clearly connected to me. Li Erpang suddenly cried. Crying so loudly. On deck. Li Erpang lay on his back on the deck, looking at the empty sky with a dull expression. It's daylight. The sky above our heads was as clear as a piece of pure crystal. But Li Erpang had no intention of admiring the sky at this moment. Why? 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 Since he took out the divine sword, he has maintained this posture, with his belly upturned and an expression of despair. A little further away from Li Erpang, Shenji Unsusu was sitting on the deck with his back straight. From a distance, this pair looks like a tall goalkeeper guarding the small ball beside him. That guy seems to have been stimulated a lot. Ningyu sighed and expressed his silence. Actually, it's not that outrageous, right? Xiao Chuer suppressed a smile, but said, although this divine sword, eldest sister, the shape is a bit unpleasant, but the sound is nice. And it seems to be very strong. I don't know. After turning into a weapon, what type of Excalibur is it? Since it is a top-level weapon with only 49 in the whole game, its attributes should not be bad. Thinking about it this way, what does this damn fat guy have to complain about? Ningyu sighed again, you don't understand men. Tisk Xiao Chuer curled her lips, non-committal. After Ningyu and Xiao Chuer finished chatting quietly, they saw that the little fat man was really too depressed. If this continues, it is likely to affect the protagonist's actions. Thinking of this, Ningyu had no choice but to step forward and rack his brains to come up with some words of comfort. Excalibur, it doesn't matter whether it's handsome or not. As an elite player, you must understand that practicality is the most important. Li Erpang, with a dull face, seemed to have found an outlet to vent his emotions. He suddenly jumped up from the deck and said with a mournful face, I know. Who the hell doesn't know that strong attributes are the most practical? But I know better. Whether you are strong or not is a matter of one version. Whether you are handsome or not is a matter of your whole life. I'm so dissatisfied. I have every reason to suspect that this crappy game is targeting me. I want to complain. Complain. I want to complain to the dog game company. The dog planner. The dog artist. Who the hell designs such a devilish character, you bastard? Emperor Wang Tian raised his eyelids and slowly typed a question mark. At some point, blacksmith Ge Lang walked near a few people and explained to Li Erpang in a stiff and cold tone. Everyone can only form a bond with one Excalibur throughout his life. Once a bond is successfully established, the relationship between a person and the divine sword is like lovers, like brothers and sisters, more like lovers, and it cannot be replaced in a lifetime. You can't change it in a lifetime. You can't change it in a lifetime. You can't change it in a lifetime. Blacksmith Ge Lang's words were like a knife, stirring over and over in Li Erpang's mind, twisting Li Erpang's sparse brain into a lump of tofu. Li Erpang made a plop and fell straight backwards. Shenji Unsusu didn't seem to hear the conversation between several people. He didn't care about Li Erpang's dislike. She raised her head from time to time and looked at Yilin's thin back at the edge of the deck, thoughtfully. The Faraday sailed alone in the vast sea of clouds. The sea of clouds is not entirely empty. When Ningyu and others were bored, they used a unique fishing rod to catch creatures in the sea of clouds. Cloudfish, cloud snake, mica, etc. These creatures in the sea of clouds have unique body structures, thin skin, and look bulging like balloons. It seems to have evolved over the years in order to survive in the sea of clouds. These plankton in the sea of clouds are of extremely low grade, and they don't taste very meaty and tasteless. Let Ningyu suspect that the designer designed these creatures just to fill in the blanks of the vast map and to make up the numbers. Under the guidance of the navigation pointer, the Faraday adjusted its direction from time to time and sailed towards its destination. The target is a living giant beast. It's not that simple to track. Without a pointer, how much luck would it take to encounter a giant beast in the vast sea of clouds? After a few days. All the best. Li Er is fat and has no love. Goza skillfully brushed up the blacksmith's favorability. Ningyu and Xiao Chu are bored. Yilin held up a cheap telescope and looked around. Suddenly, Yilin frowned. He came. Beyond the sea of clouds. 7 black ships with billowing black steam looked so dazzling in the vast sea of white clouds. In the sky above the aeroboat, there are countless special effects, sparks and lightning, angels flying, singing, magnificent and luxurious. The Faraday, as its name suggests, compared with the 7 huge black floating boats, it really looks like the younger brother in the boat. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 377. Li Erpang suddenly jumped up. What? Who? Who is coming? That posture is very similar to sitting up in shock during a dying illness. With a somewhat heavy expression, Yilin quickly came to the center of the deck and shared the bad news with her friends. Ningyu and Xiao Chu didn't believe it at first, but when they took the telescope and looked in the direction behind the Faraday, they were also shocked. Damn, I'm really chasing you. Originally, this sailing day was very boring. Ningyu and Xiao Chu find something to do from time to time to pass the boring time. Fishing, bragging, barbecue on the deck, etc. But being bored is boring, and it's 100 times better than being chased to the bottom. Yilin didn't say anything and walked directly to the cockpit. Can we get rid of them? Reply, sir, it can't be done. Yilin returned to the deck. The 7 ships seemed to be divided into 2 batches. Then, he knows the destination of the 2 navigation pointers in our hands very well. Hermelos betrayed us. Yilin was calm, her face was as dark as water, she closed her eyes and estimated the opponent's speed. It seems not as fast as Dire. Dire fuel is also plentiful. Not long ago, Yilin added a lot of sparkling wine to Night Dire's fuel tank. Thinking of this, Yilin didn't panic at all. Completely opposite to Yilin's calmness. Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, Li Erpang, and Guzi were all panicked. The dog spun around in a circle and swung its tail into the shape of a fan. What should we do? If we are caught up here, we will probably die. Li Erpang can no longer worry about the Susu divine sword now. After all, living is the most important thing. Ningyu smiled bitterly and said, be more confident and remove the word possible. This is an intermediate aerostat, which is incomparable in terms of quantity and weapon configuration. It's not scientific at all. The opponent's boat is so big. Can still have such speed, chase across the sea of clouds, what kind of hatred is there? Xiao Chuer's expression was solemn, but she also felt strange, it doesn't make sense. Logically speaking, our tasks should be similar. There is no reason to be completely hostile. Why on earth? Yilin waved her hand, it's useless to talk about it now. Ningyu and Xiao Chuer, two apostles who knew the plot thoroughly, admired Yilin for being so calm. It stands to reason that the protagonist in the trial should not die in a place like this so easily. Even if it's death, the death scene shouldn't be so boring. Thinking of this, Ningyu couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope in his heart. It's time for the protagonist's halo to fully explode, right? But at this time, it was hard for him to imagine that in the vast sea of clouds, what else could the protagonist Yilin do to fight against the opponent's 7 killer ships? But Ningyu still asked. What else can we do? Yilin thought for a moment. Everyone on the deck, turned their attention to the calmest and kindest protagonist. The reason why the protagonist is the protagonist is that he is surrounded by all kinds of luck. At the critical moment, he must either sacrifice himself to seek happiness for his companions, or explode the small universe to turn the tide. No matter which one it is not the worst ending for others. If you're going to explode, hurry up. If you want to sacrifice, you should do it neatly. A moment later, Yilin smiled, if it doesn't work out, at the last moment, just jump into the sea. What the hell? Woof woof. Everyone said 2 words at the same time, neatly and without any extra sounds. Jump into the sea? Do you think what's under your feet is water? Those are all clouds. Damn it! Who can swim in the clouds? Give me a blast. Pope de Ge gave the order, his expression as cold as a chrysanthemum. Countless special effects are flying all over the sky, as if they are free of charge. The 7 black aerostats launched their main guns at the same time, and the light quickly gathered at the dark gun barrel mouth. Main gun salvo. In an instant, the light turned the vast sea of clouds into a dazzling white. Under this level of attack, there is no way that a mere Shuangshi Kingdom mid-level aerostat could survive. This is fate. The troops were divided into 2 groups, and I actually won the prize myself. Pope de Ge was satisfied, sitting upright on the gorgeous chair, with a contented expression on his face, and murmuring in a low voice. Whether you survive or not is no longer important. Perhaps, what you know now is not as much as I know, he. Then you die. Anyway, we will meet soon. No, maybe we have already met, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't expect that this level would be so easy. I was a little reluctant to leave. Under the admiring gaze of everyone, Pope de Ge put away all the exaggerated special effects. The door to heaven closed, the angel suddenly disappeared, and the bursts of sweet and moving songs also stopped abruptly. He quickly walked to the edge of the deck. Although Pope de Ge's expression was calm, his extremely fast small steps betrayed his true thoughts. Anxious. Tangled. Look forward to. Have no choice. Pain. Don't blame me, I just want to live. It's that simple reason. Everyone will die eventually. Pope de Ge finally came to the edge of the deck and looked into the distance. The light dissipated and the younger brother level aeroboat was no longer visible. Under the powerful volley of main guns, it completely turned into dregs on the sea of clouds and sank into the abyss. Finally, Pope de Ge gritted his teeth tightly, and finally couldn't hold back his emotions any longer. His complex emotions were beyond words. Ha ha ha, finally. 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 I won. In this battle royale, I, Li Changa, have survived another round. Pope de Ge Augie Anthony, no, it should be said Li Changa, throwing his head back and laughing wantonly on the deck. But while smiling, tears shed from the corners of his eyes. I will be acting all my life, even after I die. Now, I finally don't have to act anymore. Under everyone's surprised gaze, Li Changa took out the flask from his arms. In the flask, black air surged violently. The strange voice came out in a low voice, an outsider. Huh, guess what? Li Changa chuckled, this flask is your last refuge. Haha, you said, did I smash it? Or did I smash it? Or did I smash it? After smashing it, it shouldn't be that easy for you. Cool, right? As a boss, you should have some cards, right? Flask. Yeah. It seems I'm right. Also, if you die so easily as a boss, it would be too unworthy. Flask, you'll regret it? Yeah. Li Changa wiped the tears from his eyes and raised the flask high. Everyone on the deck looked surprised. They didn't know what had happened to the new pope suddenly, and his behavior seemed to be a completely different person. It's time to go. What would be a better message to leave at the end of this level? If God had not given birth to me, Li Changa, would I have been forced to say that eternity would be like a long night? No one knows acting better than me. I am not targeting anyone. Are all of you here happy? Very confused. Li Changa was struggling and waiting. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Pope. High Priest Gil walked over cautiously. Li Changa, who had been holding the flask high, felt his arms sore and his fingers trembling slightly. Suddenly, his eyes widened and he suddenly leaned out of the fence. This action scared the hair of others, fearing that the Pope would lose his mind and make a ridiculous move of jumping into the sea. How come, there is no kill prompt? Obviously. Could it be that, no one died? Moment. When Li Changa thought of this possibility, he was shocked. Countless graves appeared out of thin air behind him. The special effects on each grave were engraved with the words Li Changa died at the age of such and such, which was eloquent and spectacular. After a while, Li Changa had a solemn expression and quickly stuffed the flask into his arms. He turned around and smiled at the others. Just now, I just made a little joke with everyone. High Priest Gil was suddenly startled, his expression dull. The flask in Li Changa's arms trembled slightly. Seems angry. Hey, why would I be willing to hit you? We are still good friends. Right. I was just joking with you. You can't be so stingy, can you? You can't really be that stingy, can you? No, no. Flask. High Priest Gil remembered the small bottle that the Pope had just raised, and looked puzzled. But he didn't dare ask. Could it be some new drink? Somewhere in the sea of clouds. Yulin rode the night dire and turned on the dark night mode. Although in the vast sea of clouds, a dark motorcycle is very conspicuous. But in the burst of light just now, Yulin had already hid in the rolling sea of clouds. The vast sea of clouds was rolling endlessly. The other party was condescending and did not notice this tiny black spot. The purpose of Yulin turning on the dark night mode is not to hide, but to silence. After all, this car is good and fast, and the engine sound is really too loud. In addition, the smell of alcohol and dirty talk from time to time are also shortcomings that make Yulin intolerable. Shadow Kill can only rely on the terrain to move. There is nothing attached between the sea of clouds and the opponent's aerospace craft, so I can't sneak up. Otherwise, Forget it, I'll chop him to death next time. A thought flashed through Yilin's mind. Also, you are a real dog. How could you even think of climbing into my car? Yilin lowered his head and looked at Wang Tiandi, who was grabbing the front of the car with his claws, feeling very speechless. But kicking Wang Tiandi down at this time seemed a bit unreasonable. For some reason, Yilin always felt that the scene looked familiar. It seemed that it had happened in a certain time, place, and sea before, making Yilin feel like she had seen it before. The others are really dead, right? Yilin's mount has limited seats, so it's impossible to save everyone. It was an accident that Wang Tiandi was able to get on the car at the critical moment. Yilin hesitated for a while, and the 7 large aerostats finally left the area in a mighty manner. It came with sparks and lightning, but it was silent when it left. After confirming that it was safe, Yilin circled around the sea of clouds and found no trace of anyone else. Sure enough, the sea of clouds is really just clouds. You can't swim, if you fall, you will definitely die. Yilin sighed softly, closed her eyes, and silently mourned for her lost teammates for 3 seconds. Go well. 3 seconds later. Yilin's expression was as usual. She calmed down, opened the item with her index finger, and took out the Aurora navigation pointer. The direction pointed by the pointer swayed slightly. The vast sea of clouds. Except for a person, a car, and a dog, no other creatures or wreckage could be seen. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 378. Day and night alternate. 3 whole days passed. In the past 3 days, Yilin rode Nightmare and rode all the way. If you run out of fuel, add some wine to the night dyer. When you're bored, let the night dyer tell some funny jokes. Maybe you can summon the 2 mother spirits, give them a few compliments, and refresh your bond points. It's not too lonely. The dog lowered his head and lay in front of the car, his pink tongue sticking out from between his teeth, fading like a bird. In the past 3 days, Yilin had gained nothing. At the very least, he has raised the bond value of the 2 mother spirits to friendly, which is gratifying. The biggest change is that the 2 female spirits, Bai Xiaoi and Nai Hongxiu, finally no longer put on their tough faces when facing him. Bai Xiaoi, who has a more lively personality, would laugh at Yilin from time to time and say he lived so miserably that he ended up wandering in the vast sea of clouds. Yilin had no dissatisfaction with the 2 mother spirits. Especially after seeing Li Erpang's loveless expression with his own eyes. It can't be worse than Li Erpang's situation. While Yilin was sailing on the dyer, she took out the communication crystal and tried to contact her teammates. Perhaps it was because there was no signal in the sea of clouds, or perhaps he had left the Gaia service area at this moment, and he was unable to contact his missing teammates. There is also a possibility that they are all dead. Could he really be dead? Yilin still feels a little sad when she thinks of her teammates who were by her side in the past. How could such a good person die just because he said he was going to die? What a pity. Yilin felt sorry. Although those teammates have their own evil intentions, they can still come in handy on certain occasions. Fortunately, God was kind to him and left him a dog. No wonder Homero said that sailing without a navigation needle is almost always a dead end. In fact, Yilin still thinks that friends are not so easy to lose. For no other reason than, Blacksmith Ge Lang. Although Blacksmith Ge Lang has always played the role of a transparent NPC, a dog licker, and a game commentator in the team, his importance is self-evident. Yilin didn't think that Blacksmith Ge Lang, who was the instructor of the Sword Master, would die easily under that wave of bombardment. This Sea of Clouds map is really too big. It's a good game. Why make these empty areas so big? Isn't it better to just switch the map with a whoosh? Yilin was quite speechless at this unpleasant game setting. But he was speechless. Now he was trapped in this game world called Uranos and had no way to complain. Even if you want to feedback some players' ideas to the game company, there is no channel. Regarding the behavior and words of the person named Digi Anthony, Yulin carefully thought about it when she was bored and found many inconsistencies. Why would he bite them like a mad dog and not let go? Everyone is just playing games, and passing the level is the goal. But his series of actions gave Yulin the feeling that he did not want to clear the level, but instead tried every means to prevent several people from completing tasks and upgrading. It's like standing on the opposite side of other players. Moreover, Yulin was also very concerned about the nagging words that the player said when he confronted Yulin across the crystal in the church in Labutown. Forget it, it's useless to think too much now. The most important thing at the moment is. Yulin set the night dyer in idle mode, skillfully took out the special fishing rod for fishing in the sea of clouds, put on the bait, and threw it far away, saying to himself, "Find the Titan beast first. Return. Yes, fill your stomach." After a while, a LV9 multiple striped floating fish was caught. The creatures in the sea of clouds are like balloons, very light, with thin skin, no scales, and very tender meat. Yulin skillfully took out a crystal energy vial, washed the multi-striped floating fish with potion, peeled it, and shaped the question mark divine sword into the shape of a fruit knife. In less than a minute, a complete multi-striped floating fish was processed into multi-striped floating fish sashimi. When Goza saw this, he became energetic and immediately showed a smile like a licking dog. What's the rush? Yulin slapped away Wang Tiandi's claws that were about to move, and took out a bunch of bottles and jars from the props, which were all filled with the special seasonings of the Double Lion Kingdom. Sashimi needs to be dipped in sauce to be delicious, do you understand? Goza, his smile is even more unrestrained. After one day. Master, look, there is light over there. Bai Xiaoai's translucent spiritual body floated above Yulin's head, and suddenly pointed into the distance and said in shock. Yo, you're awesome. The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoai is add 1. You have such good eyesight. I didn't even see it. Yulin had already seen the white light in the distance, but words of praise came to her casually. The bond value of the divine sword Bai Xiaoai is add 2. Yulin quickly turned her head to look at Nai Hongxiu, who was silent on the other side, with a calm expression and a hint of indifference. You are great too. There was no fluctuation in Nai Hongxiu's snow-white eyes. She pursed her lips and looked at Yulin's smiling face for a moment, then turned her head and whispered, boring. The bond value of the divine sword Nai Hongxiu is add 2. Alas, the days of flattering the mother spirit are so simple and boring. After brushing up a wave of bond values every day, Yulin began to confirm the direction of the navigation needle. Sure enough, the end of the pointer pointed to the light in the distance. The Titan of Light, light. Yulin recalled what Homero said about the setting of 7, no, 6-headed giant beasts. It was almost certain that the end of the light must be the destination of Yulin's trip, Orula. Although in the setting, the Titan beast is moving all the time. But that's only a relative term. In the vast sea of clouds, there is no reference for comparison, and the dim light in Yulin's eyes is almost fixed. Yulin speeded up and turned the accelerator sharply. The night dyer was like a black lightning, heading towards the Aurora Titan at full speed. Before landing, something unexpected happened to Yulin, so she collected the 2 mother spirits in advance. As an elite assassin player, don't reveal your wealth and keep a low profile at all times. This is a good habit to survive longer in the game. Finally, Yulin successfully logged in. Here is a small beach. The hills in the distance are undulating, and the hills are covered with many unnamed green plants. The light Yulin saw from a distance came from the other side of the hill. The light was soft but not dazzling. After wandering on the sea of clouds for a while, Yulin stepped on the ground again. Yulin put away Night Dyer. Oh, my dear master. Night Dyer seemed to want to say something dirty. Yulin had no expression on her face as she quickly pressed Nightmare into the space rift. Roll. This self-proclaimed Cybertronian biker's mount always gave Yulin a strange feeling. After successfully logging in, Yulin quickly took a look at the surrounding environment. The giant beast is always moving. Although Yulin can't feel the movement of the giant beast when stepping on the sand, the cloud waves hitting the beach from time to time prove this. There are no monsters around. Seems safe. But Yulin didn't dare to be careless. After all, he still doesn't know what level the monsters on this giant beast's back are. What if the monsters in this leveling area all have skulls on their heads and cannot see their levels? What if all the monsters in this leveling area are invisible? What if all the monsters in this leveling area emerge from the sand to attack players? In short, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being careful. Yulin habitually turned on following like a shadow, shaped the question mark divine sword into her usual double dagger, and walked slowly on the beach. Swish swish. Wherever Yulin walked, she left clear footprints and imperceptible footsteps. The dog didn't lose its chain at the critical moment. He silently took out a brand new fighting claw and put it on without barking. About 100 meters away, on the edge of the beach, stood a simple wooden hut. On the deserted beach, the hut in the distance was the only building. Yulin walked towards the hut without hesitation. One man and one dog approached slowly, very skillfully. In the game, the attraction of new maps to players is nothing more than unknown maps, unknown missions, unknown monsters. All these unknowns are enough to arouse every elite player's desire to explore. EY-. Just when Yulin was about to arrive at the cabin and explore the new map, the closed door of the cabin suddenly opened. A thin old man with a white beard, his eyes closed and humming a tuneless song, walked out of the house leisurely. Yulin's expression was slightly startled. The NPC that suddenly appeared made Yulin neither advance nor retreat. The old man with white beard did not notice Yulin's existence. Because he didn't open his eyes at all. I saw that the old man was wearing slippers, his lower body was wearing a pair of colorful beach shorts, and his upper body was covered in a wrinkled black robe. The black robe was unbuttoned, and his chest was exposed. The old man also wore a tall black hat on his head. This image. If you ignore the eye-catching beach shorts, flip-flops, and those hairy legs, he looks very much like the wizard in Yulin's recognition. Yulin held the knife tightly and took a few steps closer. He wanted to get closer and take a closer look to see if this guy was a boss or an NPC. Yellow name. Neutral NPC. Great Engineer. Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. This name is a bit too long. And what the hell is this Great Engineer? It doesn't look like it at all. Which dog planner made the character design? Let's look at the level. LV? The man and the dog looked at each other. In an instant, Yulin seemed to understand the dog's thoughts, and the dog also understood Yulin's plan. Yulin and Wang Tiandi put away their weapons at the same time, and made a conscious decision to see the situation before making plans. Hello, Great Engineer, I would like to ask for directions. Yulin showed a kind smile. Wang Tiandi subconsciously opened his mouth and stretched out his tongue, silently acting like a qualified licking dog. Before speaking, Yulin cancelled the shadowing function so as not to startle the invisible NPC. A strange thought suddenly flashed through Yulin's mind. This NPC looks very old. What if I get a heart attack or something and die on the spot? Who gets the experience points? The Great Engineer, Deng, upon hearing this, turned his head and looked at the man and the dog on the beach. Before that, he had not noticed Yulin's existence at all. Suddenly, after seeing Yulin clearly, the Great Engineer Deng rubbed his cloudy old eyes and turned his gaze to the licking dog at Yulin's feet. People, dogs, people, dogs. Deng seemed to have bad eyesight, his eyes jumped back and forth repeatedly, looking at Yulin and Wang Tiandi several times. Excuse me. Yilin was puzzled and couldn't help but speak again. But the words are not finished yet. But Adeng, the great engineer, trotted up to Yilin in his slippers, his face flushed with excitement, his beard and eyebrows trembling. The end, the end, the end, the end. Slow down, I'm not in a hurry. I've finally waited for you. Great engineer Adeng, the words that had been stuck in his throat like old phlegm for a long time, finally came out. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 379. Yilin's expression was shocked at first, and then she understood. Oh. So that's it? It turns out to be such a simple and unpretentious setting. It turns out that this NPC named Great Engineer Aiden is a functional NPC specially designed to receive new players here and give corresponding explanations. Yilin has been in this game for a while and is very familiar with the positioning of players in the game world. It's just to increase the sense of immersion. It's nothing more than posting tasks. No, the sense of substitution is here. That one LV? Neutral NPC said such words, making Yilin and Go instantly feel that they were awesome. The excited engineer Adeng finally calmed down. I can finally get off work. The great engineer Adeng squeezed Yilin's hand tightly and refused to let go. In the cabin. Adeng, the great engineer, told Yilin the cause and effect of all this. The reason is not too complicated. Just like Yilin's experience in Gaia, there was a prophecy from the gods that one day in the year 3333 of the cloud calendar, a brave would arrive in Aurora with his dog, bringing peace and hope to Aurora. Such an old-fashioned setting. Yilin was speechless after hearing this. But it seems that since it is a game, there is nothing to complain about. So you're just waiting here. I have been here for 264 days. You are really capable. No, I mean you are so awesome. I can finally get off work. The great engineer Adeng was very emotional and full of obsession with getting off work. It seems that for him, it is a very painful thing to squat here and wait for the heroes to come. Yilin's heart moved and she opened Reputation and took a look. During Yilin's conversation with the great engineer Adeng, one more item was unlocked in his Reputation interface. Reputation of the University of Engineering, neutral, 0/3000. Fortunately it's not hostile. Yilin has been frightened by various hostile forces recently. Before further contact, check the reputation level first. As long as it's not a red name, don't be afraid. Big engineering school. Yilin silently looked at Adeng's attire, always feeling that it was difficult to connect the great engineer with Adeng's wizard attire. Who is it that planned to cut corners and make random settings? Let's go. Without further ado, I will take you to the University of Engineering. Ding. After Adeng finished speaking, a shiny golden exclamation point suddenly popped up above his head. Yilin has been playing games for so long, and is already accustomed to this style of painting, so she casually took over the task. Accept side mission, go to the Great Engineering College. Mission goal, follow the Great Engineer, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore, to the Great Engineering School. Task difficulty, D. Task reward, EXP add 4000. There's not much to say about this line mission. It's just a guidance task. But Yilin found it a little strange that the difficulty of this task was D. Does this D have any special meaning? Yilin was thinking as she followed the great engineer Adeng out of the cabin. The great engineer Adeng took out an old one-handed stick from somewhere. One-handed cane, one of the types of equipment. Yilin squinted at the crystal inlaid on the single-handed cane, thoughtfully. Let me think about it. It seems like, oh, Your Majesty the Brave, Your Excellency the Dog, please move your feet. Yilin and Wang Tiandi looked stunned. The great engineer Aiden's stick pointed directly at his and the dog's feet. That empty patch of sand. With confusion, one person and one dog left the place silently and moved to a different position. I saw Lao Deng looking like he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. He was tapping a circle on the sand with a single cane. Swish, 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 tuck tuck tuck. The stick finally made a different sound. This place is completely different from the place just now, okay. Emperor Wang Tian covered the dog's face and looked away. Lao Deng used his withered hands to quickly rub the crystal at the end of his single cane for a while. Then, the crystal at the end of the single cane emitted a soft blue light. Sha-sha-sha. The fine sand flowed to both sides, and a metal plate engraved with lines emerged from the depths buried in the sand, suspended in front of Yilin and Wang Tiandi. This seems to have the same working principle as an aerostat. A small floating device. Yilin observed the complex, shimmering lines on the metal plate and asked, "What kind of magic is this?" When the great engineer Adeng heard this, he looked at the prophesied brave man strangely and retorted, "Nonsense, this is science. You must believe in science." Yilin. Emperor Wang Tian. At the signal of the great engineer Adeng, Yilin and Wang Tiandi got on the small floating machine. This board was surprisingly stable, carrying the weight of 2 people and a dog without any shaking. Yilin looked at Adeng sitting cross-legged in front, the hair on his legs trembling, and the corners of his eyes twitching slightly. She couldn't help but kindly remind, "Hey, Deng, don't you change your pants." When great engineer Arden heard what Yilin called him, he shook his beard and corrected him seriously, "My full name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore." "Okay, Adeng. My full name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore." "I understand, Adeng." Yilin made an okay gesture. Adeng gave up. Adeng will be Adeng. It sounds better than Abu, Ali, and Adua. There is a small circular groove in the front of the board. After Adeng saw the position of the groove clearly, he firmly stuck the end of the single cane in his hand into it, making it a perfect fit and unified shape. Click. As the single cane and the board merged into one, soft sounds like gears grinding came from the board under Yilin's butt. The criss-crossing lines shone brightly, and 2 translucent shadows floated from both sides of the board, floating on both sides of the board. Yilin took a closer look and found that her face was reflected in the translucent shadow. "Ah, this? Etc. Why do these structures look familiar?" Adeng ignored Yilin's curiosity and took out a booklet by Zobabo from his robe. He carefully manipulated the words in the booklet and muttered to himself. 1 step, 2 hooks, 3 horns, 4 turns, 5 looks, 6 handbrakes. Yilin was speechless for a moment. This is obviously Chech. That stick stuck on the board is obviously the gear handle, right? Could the translucent light curtains rising on both sides be rear view mirrors? Etc. Adeng, you still need to read the operation guide at this time. Have you passed the driver's license test? Yilin subconsciously pressed her hands on the board under her butt to steady it. He suddenly understood what was so difficult about this task of difficulty. Fortunately, the Chech was successfully launched. Adeng manipulated the gear handle, and the board rose into the air, slowly crossing the hill and driving in a certain direction. Yilin didn't have time to breathe a sigh of relief. While he was in mid-air, Adeng grimaced again, took out the pamphlet again, and read it again. Yilin had no expression on her face as she looked at the smaller and smaller cabin below her, assessing the height they had reached so far. What if, they fell into the car, would they fall to their death from this height? The scenery slowly passed behind my head. Aiden drove very smoothly. The movements seemed to be a little more proficient. Yilin saw that Adeng became more proficient in his movements, and then she dared to ask, what kind of place is the University of Engineering? Adeng didn't dare to look back and said seriously, for driving safety, you cannot distract the driver's attention. After a while, speeding over the hills, Yilin and Wang Tiandi suddenly became enlightened. This. Yilin looked shocked. Behind the hills, there are actually many tall buildings, and lights of various colors shuttle between the tall buildings, which is gorgeous and magnificent. There are many flying cars of the same style as those under Yilin's S, driving and shuttling in an orderly manner in the light of the tall buildings. A den carefully merged into the traffic. Yilin discovered that the conspicuous lights outlined the shape of the road. The flatbed flying cars are driving in an orderly manner on the road outlined by the light. Whoosh! A flatbed quickly passed by Yilin. Whoosh! Another car. You seem to be driving a little slowly, right? Aden was angry. Nonsense. There is a speed limit in the University of Engineering. I'm already driving very fast. Don't underestimate the skills of the experienced driver. Whoosh! A whole fleet of tablets flew past Yilin and the dog. All right. Yilin decided not to say anything more. It was obvious just now that when Aden was in a mood swing, the flatbed truck almost veered off the road. Yilin couldn't imagine what terrible things would happen. In the distance, there is a tall tower. The architectural style of the tower is very sci-fi. Luminous lines, from bottom to top, cover the entire outer wall of the tower. The luminous crystals rotate around the tower, and the light in the line separates from time to time, connecting with the surrounding crystals, seemingly integrated and indistinguishable from each other. The pattern structure on the surface of this tower is far more complex than the 7-crystal pattern formation of the Izada Port Holy See branch. Yilin had countless questions in her mind, but because Aden was driving nervously, Yilin did not dare to ask any more questions. Lest you accidentally distract the old driver's attention and end up with a tragic end of 1 car and 3 lives. Finally, the flatbed landed safely. Call. Old driver Aden took a long breath and quietly wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Yilin and Guzi also wiped away cold sweat at the same time. It's finally here. I swear, I will never ride in his car again. Once I violate this, I will never be able to upgrade in the game. Yilin swore a poisonous oath in a low voice. Woof! Emperor Wang Tian rolled on the ground and raised his paws to the sky, expressing his strong agreement. Ding! Side mission, go to the University of Engineering mission completed. Get EXP add 4000. Yilin's experience bar increased a little. Now that Yilin is at level 35, this little experience is not enough for Yilin to reach the next level. After Yilin closed the player panel, she began to look at her surroundings. This tall tower seems to be the main body of the great engineering college. With the high tower as the center, there is a circle of pure white high walls surrounding it. Within the high wall, scattered paths, strange-shaped plants, and splashing fountains are distributed in the high-walled courtyard. There are also many young men and women wearing wizard black robes, holding thick books in their hands, strolling along the path. Yilin squinted at the titles above the heads of various yellow-named neutral NPCs. Student Engineer. Junior Engineer. Mid-level Engineer. There is something obviously wrong with this style of painting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 380. At the same time. Gilialo. Li Erpang spit out a string of bubbles from his mouth. Gilialo. Another string of bubbles was spit out. Fat Master, am I dreaming? Li Erpang pinched Ningyu's thigh hard. Are you sure you are dreaming? Why are you pinching me? The corner of Ning's right eyebrow twitched. It hurt. Does it hurt? Roll. After Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang woke up from a shell bed, they looked at each other and blew bubbles from their mouths, all looking confused. They never expected that after being swallowed by a giant beast in the sea of clouds, they would face such a strange scene when they woke up. There is water all around. The three of them were all soaked in water. While talking, the bubbles that kept coming out of their mouths proved that they were really soaked in water and there was no falsehood at all. It should be because of this, right? Xiao Chuer picked up the necklace hanging around her neck. The necklace is made of small pearls. At the bottom of the necklace, there is a crystal clear blue crystal, with faint light shining through from the depths of the crystal. Waterproof necklace. Rarity D. Effect able to breathe underwater. Simple and easy to understand props. Awesome. Li Erpang began to look at his surroundings. This is a small room. The surroundings are filled with crystal clear water. On the roof, a unique crystal lamp provides the only light, but makes the room not look dark, but has a strange mood. The light of the crystal, refracted by the water, casts colorful colors on the four walls, making the scene like a dream. The three of them were lying in an open shell. When they woke up from the shell, they felt like a scallop, slightly open and squirming. There are many coral-shaped decorations on the four walls of the room, in red, white and blue, which add a bit of fantasy to this monotonous and simple room. Xiao Chuer smiled, to be honest, I like this decoration style. Wait a minute. Li Erpang suddenly jumped up, spit out a string of bubbles, and then took out the communication crystal from the prop. That kid didn't respond. Could he be dead? Ningyu was shocked when he heard this. He also quickly took out the communication crystal to confirm. Sure enough, Yilin's name is An. There are only two possibilities, either dead or not in the service area. Not being in the service area means not being on the back of the same giant beast. Probably not. Ningyu quickly put aside this terrible thought. He glanced at the angry little fat man without leaving a trace, and analyzed in a low voice, even, we can survive, there is no reason for him to die so easily. It doesn't make sense, it must not be possible. Li Erpang wondered, why do I feel like you are talking about me? Xiao Chuer looked around, moved her hands and feet, and said, but where are we now? Water. Ningyu whispered one word. Xiao Chuer and Ningyu suddenly looked at each other and said in unison, the giant water beast, Poseidon. That day, their Faraday, much like his younger brother, was hit by a wave of terrible bombardment, leaving no room for resistance and was blown to pieces. Before the bombardment arrived, Yilin had already expressed the worst plan. Jump into the sea. When things come to a head, there is really no other choice. Ningyu, Xiao Chuer, and Li Erpang also jumped. Unsurprisingly, you really can't swim in the sea of clouds. The buoyancy in the sea of clouds is extremely weak. Although it is not to the point of free fall, in the sea of clouds, they cannot float up when they want and sink when they want to, like normal swimming. The three of them were falling helplessly in the sea of clouds. As they fell, the light in front of them became darker and darker. Lian Ningyu and Xiao Chuer were both desperate at the time, thinking they would die in the sea of clouds. No one dared to witness with their own eyes what it was like to fall. At that time, Ningyu still felt strange that there were only two apostles, a dead fat man, and an NPC blacksmith with a calm face in Mao Yunli. But the protagonist Yilin and his dog were missing. When the three of them were desperate, in the darkness, a terrifying black figure opened its mouth towards them. When they woke up, they were lying on the open shell and became the scallops inside. The three of them understood their situation in the shortest possible time. I didn't expect that I would encounter Poseidon in the vast sea of clouds. Ningyu was very emotional. He quietly glanced at Li Erpang again. Could this be a different kind of protagonist halo? But the aura of the protagonist is too scary, right? Even the leg hair around the protagonist will not die. The kind where a chicken or a dog ascends to heaven if one person attains the Tao. Even in such a desperate situation, he was able to escape in such an outrageous way. There is no doubt that the protagonist's aura is powerful. This incident made Ningyu and Xiaochu even more determined to hold the protagonist tightly. Even if the protagonist is not here now, it is okay to give the protagonist a hug on his legs first. Nothing to be ashamed of. Just when the three of them had their own thoughts, there was movement outside the door. It's said to be a door, but it's actually just a patch of green seaweed floating in the water acting as a barrier. You guys, wake up. In the water, a flexible figure swam in through the seaweed. The long fishtail and sparkling scales created small turbulences in the room. Li Erpang suddenly widened his eyes and grinned wildly. Human, mermaid. Yilin entered the tower. There is actually an elevator inside. Of course the power is not electricity, but crystal. What he saw along the way made Yilin seem to have returned to reality. Although Yilin lost her memory in reality, Yilin's only knowledge told him that the style of painting was definitely wrong in the game world. But what can be done? Game companies have the final say. The dog planner has the final say. Taking the elevator, Yilin arrived at the top floor. In a place similar to a meeting room, Yilin saw four old men wearing pointed wizard hats and black robes, who also had long beards. Your Majesty the Brave Lord, Lord Dog, please sit down. The conference room in front of me was decorated a bit like a large job interview site. Yilin and Wang Tiandi looked at each other, both speechless. Deng looked like he had just come back from vacation. With empty eyes and a step that he didn't recognize, Deng slowly walked to the side of the four bearded old men and sat down. Five old men sat in front of Yilin. Their titles are the same as Deng's, with the four characters Big Engineer on their heads, making them look awesome. As for the name, Yilin looked from left to right, then from right to left, and decided to give up the idea of delving into these names. More than just a name. The five old men felt very much like quintuplets to Yilin. At a glance, it was impossible to tell who was who. You might as well be Deng number 1, Deng number 2, Deng number 3, Deng number 4, and Deng number 5. Ahem. You're back. Deng number 3, who was sitting in the middle, looked at Deng number 1 with a smile. The mission was successfully completed. Now, the five Dengs looked at Yilin at the same time. Ding. Moment. Above the five heads, golden exclamation marks popped up. Accept important side missions, requests from great engineers. Mission goal, find and solve the source of the crystal depletion in the Aurora crystal mine. Task difficulty, SS. Task time limit, none. Task reward, EXP add 200,000. It turned out to be an SS level side mission. Yilin was helpless. It's a branch line again. Why does it feel like it's getting further and further away from the main line? Yilin complained softly. Ever since they were chased by that erratic slut player, Yilin and his team had been running for their lives and being chased, and had no time to explore the main mission. Yilin almost forgot that she also shouldered the mission of a brave man. Let the branch line be a branch line. At worst, you can concentrate on leveling up. When you reach LV99, you can kill the final boss in seconds. Isn't it safe and refreshing? Thinking of this, Yilin had a clear idea in an instant. A full 200,000 experience points, if it can be completed now, can allow Yilin to upgrade several levels in a row. But obviously, SS level tasks are not so easy to complete. Even if Yilin's fighting style can be called cheating, Yilin doesn't dare to be careless. There is only one life. Deng followed. After the task was announced, the five big engineers who were the only ones in the engineering school patted their chests and said that as long as Yilin could complete the task, everything would be fine and they would help her. From Deng's mouth, Yilin also learned the general background of this mission. This large engineering college can be said to be the source of all crystal technology in this game world. Engineers who come out of this academy are reused by every country on the Titan. Whether they are manufacturing aerospace craft or other equipment, the engineers who come out here all serve as technical consultants, and their importance cannot be overstated. And metaphor. But Adeng said that originally the University of Engineering was not open to the public. But for some unknown reason, starting 10 years ago, the output of the only crystal mine on Aurora Titanic has been decreasing and decreasing. In the end, the output could not even sustain consumption, and the only option was to purchase crystals in large quantities from other countries through importing. Other countries, including countries controlled by the Holy See, have used this as a price to require technical support from the Great Engineering Institute. Therefore, over the years, the College of Engineering has also received many exchange students from other giant beasts. After these exchange students learned knowledge from the major engineering colleges, they returned to their home countries to serve their motherland. The 5 great engineers were very anxious about this situation. They could not sleep all day and night. They lost a lot of beards, and some even went bald. One day, the dean of the University of Engineering had a dream. The god Uranos made a prophecy, saying that one day in the cloud calendar 3333, there will be a brave from another world who will drift here from other giant beasts and completely solve Aurora's energy depletion crisis and bring peace to Aurora. It's probably such a sad story. It turns out that the energy is running out. After coming out of the conference room, Adeng had not had time to change out of his colorful pants. 2 people and 1 dog were walking in the corridor. Engineers of various levels occasionally passed by and cast strange looks at them. Adeng rubbed his palms and said with a shy face, "I wonder when, Your Excellency, you will leave for the mine." Yilin rolled her eyes. "Isn't there no time limit?" "I'm not in a hurry." "Why are you in a hurry?" Yilin didn't answer. Instead, he asked another very important question. "Can I learn this, engineering or something?" Adeng was stunned. He never expected that the brave man in the prophecy would be interested in boring engineering. "Sure." After a while, Adeng nodded seriously. "This is right?" Yilin nodded with satisfaction. "A serious assassin should study engineering hard. Xianyubai hasn't asked for a monthly ticket for a long time. So, you understand, right?" Infinity Throne. Author, by Yi Shueshi. Chapter 381. 2 days later. Yilin was wearing a black robe and a pointed hat. On the podium, Deng, a white-bearded man, held a small stick and talked with high spirits. Adeng's head is green. Do not misunderstand. Only the name is green, nothing else is green. After officially becoming a member of the Great Engineering College, the reputation value of the Great Engineering College on Yilin's reputation panel also advanced from neutral to friendly. So Adeng's name is green. Became a friendly NPC with a green name. Yilin also naturally received an additional title. Student Engineer. This title can be advanced. If you want to advance, you must actually complete the courses and exams in the engineering school to advance step by step. The blackboard is densely filled with various lines, treads and nodes. Adeng tilted the blackboard with all his strength, fearing that Yilin would desert his duties and lecture loudly. "Now, my dear student, listen up." After Yilin's identity changed, Lao Deng became more arrogant and no longer called Yilin Your Excellency the Brave. The days of being respected as a player are gone forever. Now Yilin is Adeng's cute new student, the kind with no cards. I have already explained the theoretical basis to you. In the entire engineering, crystal grain science is the top priority. Only by mastering crystal grain science can we create circuits with various functions. Attention, it's question time. Adeng raised his gray eyebrows, and a playful expression flashed across his face. It is known that in a crystal pattern circuit composed of a single core crystal, there are 3 primary patterns, 6 secondary patterns, and 2 advanced patterns. Under the premise of minimizing energy consumption, we can use less than 10 nodes to create how many kinds of circuits are there? Yulin. 2 kinds. Seeing Yulin's confused face, Aden knocked on the blackboard angrily. They are secondary acceleration circuit and secondary floating circuit. Don't understand these? Here's another question. If we want to construct a composite loop with 3 loop modules, secondary defense loop, secondary heating loop, and secondary cooling loop, can we accomplish the above with a single core and 20 nodes, construction of a compound circuit? Please answer. Yulin's eyes lit up. He seems to understand this issue. Yulin quickly flipped through the heavy elementary crystal texture, essentials of circuit construction, and optimal solution on node selection on the table. 5 minutes later, Yulin answered cautiously, it seems possible. Wrong, Aden knocked on the blackboard hard, stupid. The secondary heating loop and the secondary cooling loop are typical conflict loops and cannot be built with a single core. Unless you want to explode. This is an introduction for young children, a level question. Boom. Yulin's head hit the textbook cover. Outside the classroom, Wang Tiandi lay contentedly outside the door. Listening to the roar coming from inside, he couldn't help but pull his ears down and cover them tightly. It seems a bit miserable. Now I'll give you a practical lesson. Aden took out a piece of patterned paper that had been drawn in advance. Yulin carefully identified the pattern and was a little unsure, secondary heating circuit. Aden nodded appreciatively, with a pleased expression on his face, you finally got the answer right for once. Aden took out another small flask with water in it. I saw Aden placing a complete small crystal at the core position, and then placing some crystal fragments on the nodes. A simple crystal pattern single loop is constructed. Soon, the lines on the paper lit up. In the complete circuit, the power of the crystal flows silently. Yulin looked at it carefully, her eyes unblinking, not wanting to miss any detail. A few minutes later, the water in the flask begins to boil. No matter how many times she watched it, Yulin felt that this engineering was so magical that she gradually forgot that the place she was in was a game world. This is magic. Nonsense, this is science. You must believe in science. Science and technology are the primary productive forces. Come and try and build the simplest secondary heating loop. Okay. Yulin was eager to give it a try. Loop, node, crystal pattern. Aden made the best use of the newly boiled hot water and made a pot of tea. Waste is shameful. While sipping cheap black tea, the great engineer Aden had time to pay attention to Yulin's movements. Huh? You're moving very fast. Ah, this? Wait, don't put it there. This is an explosion. Boom. Thick smoke billowed out of the classroom. Yulin walked out of the thick smoke and silently took out the communication crystal. Medical team. There was an accidental explosion in the C-101 laboratory on the 43rd floor. Deng, the senior engineer, passed out. Huh? Which senior engineer are you talking about? Let me think about it. It's Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Well, he should still be alive. Hurry up and don't wait. This time, Yulin finally skillfully called out Adeng's full name. Adeng, who was in a coma, expressed his relief. 1 month later. The 54-story Engineering College Library. Area C. The title above Yulin's head has also been successfully upgraded from student engineer to intermediate engineer. The explosion a month ago is still vivid in Adeng's mind. Adeng never expected that this extremely dangerous student who caused one explosion accident after another would be able to complete the courses from student engineer to student engineer in just 1 month, and pass the assessments again and again, completely unsatisfied. he was awarded the title of Intermediate Engineer. If you were so awesome back then, wouldn't I have to be bombed? Intermediate Grainography Guide. Selection Analysis of Loop Multi-Core and Single Core. Advanced Node Building Guide. Defense Circuits, Intermediate. Detailed explanation of the construction of conflict circuit. Floating circuit, Advanced. Lightning circuit, Elementary. Encyclopedia of Crystal Types. On the idea of using conflict circuits to create explosions. On the self-cultivation of great engineers. Why didn't I know that great engineers have self-cultivation? Yulin looked at the signature. By Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. That's okay. Yulin expressionlessly ignored this useless book. It seems like I've almost seen it all. Yulin's fingertips scratched the cover of a book, feeling uninterested. He has seen all of this. Although many of the contents were not fully understood, Yulin used her terrible memory to memorize them by rote and digest them later. Yulin raised her head and looked at the endless bookshelf in front of her, feeling very speechless. You said it's a good turn-based RPG online game, and it's okay to convey knowledge in this way. Maybe not tidy up the bookshelves a little? There are more than 50% books on the bookshelf. Although the authors are different, the content is similar. Yulin sometimes even reads several textbooks of the same type, and even the exact same sentences appeared in them. After Yulin bombed Adeng several times, Adeng was also frightened and directly gave Yulin permission to the library on the 54th floor and became the hands-off shopkeeper. It is also called euphemistically, real geniuses are all self-taught. This book seems interesting. Detailed explanation of the layout of crystal patterns, nodes, and cores in very large composite circuits. There are 3 libraries in this large engineering tower. Adeng treated him well. The books in the library on the 54th floor were among the highest-end libraries. Ordinary students could not enter, and they were not even open to exchange students. Apart from Yulin, there were no other students in the huge library. The only sound left was the sound of Yulin flipping through books. This game is so interesting. I'm really curious as to whether this knowledge was made up out of thin air. The principles inside are very clear and logical. Once I really learned it, I couldn't help but get addicted to it and had no intention of leveling up. So to put it bluntly, I am really an incompetent elite player. For a whole month, apart from meeting Adeng to complete the corresponding assessments and maintaining a reasonable schedule, Yulin spent most of her time in the library. Perhaps even Adeng could not imagine how many books Yulin had read in this month and how much knowledge he had mastered about crystal pattern science. Yulin even took the time to browse through mechanical structure of aerospace craft. It's a pity that Yulin is not very interested and doesn't put much thought into this aspect. The crystal in this game world is equivalent to a pure energy source, and crystal texture can use this energy source to play a specific role in a specific way. Whether it is the thickness of the texture, the number of nodes, the distribution, and the number of cores all determine how far this energy source can be used. And this energy source is a one-time, non-renewable resource. No wonder they are so anxious after the so-called crystal mine is exhausted. Everything in this game world is inseparable from the crystal. Once the crystal is lost, many facilities in this world are unable to operate. This is how the game should be set. But, is that really the case? Yulin closed her eyes. In the past month, Yulin asked herself the same question countless times. Is this really just a simple game world? Whether it is the interaction with NPCs or the complex and mysterious yet ridiculously complete crystal pattern system, it is difficult for Yulin to believe that he is currently in a simple game world. It was hard for him to imagine who could have this ability to create a huge technological system. Yulin even had a feeling that this weird technology could be used even in reality. Of course, the premise is that there is an energy source like crystal in the real world. But the essence of crystal is just a kind of high-purity energy. Can it be replaced by other energy sources? Yulin was distracted while flipping through the book, with many thoughts running through her mind. After 1 hour, Yulin memorized another book. He silently closed detailed explanation of the arrangement of crystal patterns, nodes, and cores in super large composite loops, and while there was still time, he continued to stand up and walked back and forth among the neat bookshelves to see if he could still find any interesting books. Huh? This is it? Yulin glanced at the corner of the bookshelf. There, I saw an ancient book with no words on the cover. This ancient book is made of the skin of some kind of monster. It looks very old. There are many cracks on the skin of the monster. Opening the title page, the inner pages are already yellowed. It is obvious that this book has gone through a lot of vicissitudes. It's just a game, does it need to spend so much effort on such details? Yulin smiled softly and looked at the 3 words on the title page. World History. Oh. Out of curiosity, Yulin patted the dust inside, and then simply sat on the ground and read with the soft light of the crystal lamp. I do not know how long it has been. Yulin sat up straight. The smile on his face gradually faded and was replaced with a solemn expression. Ding. Right now. Current main mission goal, find the source of the crisis of annihilation. Goal accomplished. Get EXP add 18,000. Get gold coins add 12,000 G. The main mission has been updated. Current main mission, the mission of the brave. Current mission goal, find more clues about the evil god. Task difficulty, A+. Task time limit, none. Task reward, EXP add 25,000. Immediately afterwards, a golden light shot straight towards Yulin Tianling Gai. Congratulations. Level increased to LV 36. Get God-given points. The level that had been stuck for a whole month was finally improved under this wave of golden light. But at this moment, Yulin had no time to appreciate the pleasure brought by the upgrade. She closed the history of the world in her hand with an expressionless face and hurriedly walked out of the 54th floor library.